Ta-da! Here we are, folks. Welcome to the Hollywood Squares. And here we are for another episode of the Photo Lounge
What I call the general meeting.
live discussion.
Yes.
And so here we are on September 20th, and we thank all of you for joining us. And we got a lot of stuff to go through tonight. And I'm just gonna have everybody say hello quick. We'll acknowledge the people in the chat. Have Gustavo put up the scorecard here to show what the agenda is for the show, and we'll do a little bit talking with some rumors that are out there, a little bit of conversation, not a lot, and then we want to get into episode 1, part 1 of the Astro Photography presentation that Bob Rosato and Terry and David have been working on with Gustavo, trying to keep them from beating up each other, and then we will start that as soon as we can. So I'll say my hellos and let everybody go around the circle here and say hi, and then we'll acknowledge everybody in the chat.
Yes. So hello. So indeed, we have. I will bring the slide and welcome everybody into the chat. We acknowledge you in a second or two. Everything working fine. These three guys have been working hard on this presentation, and I think Terry, Bob, and David did a great job. And today we'll have that first installment. Okay, so you will see some of that, and that's all. And when we get a little bit down there, I tell you what I have been doing as well, photographically. Chuck.
Oh, hi everybody.
David, on the field.
Okay, as you can tell, I'm on location again. It's I was out shooting the stars until 5:30 this morning. And the equipment is working better. For some reason, I'm making fewer mistakes, and maybe that comes with experience. But we'll see how it goes, and ready to help out Robert and Terry tonight. Take it away, Roy.
I've done nothing. I've got my driveway finally concreted. That's about it.
Okay. Well,
last 75 meters.
A lot. I don't want to know. I know concrete's very expensive. I'm not going to ask you what that ran you.
You don't want to ask.
No, I'm not going to ask. No more camera gear for you for a while.
Concrete's ugly, but it's very practical.
Yeah,
for sure.
Terry.
Hello, everyone. Like he says hi too.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Been working for a while here with Gustavo and David and Terry on this presentation, so we'll go through that tonight at some point. Okay. Hopefully it'll be useful for folks.
And Terry, let's do a audio check on you. Say something.
We have no audio from you, Terry, at all, and you're kind of sort of freezing up a little bit.
Well, it's cold in Australia right now.
So let me bring this while Terry's doing that.
Testing.
Okay,
there we go.
Yep.
There we go.
That's very good. All right. So this is our title page for today. You saw that. So this is the agenda, guys, that we have. Correct. So we started already the welcome to the live stream and what have you been up to, and of course we're going to welcome here the people in the chat. So who do we have in the chat? We have I saw early on Bob.
We got Bob our photos, Bob, and we got Jim, real Nikon lover, and we've got let's see,
Leslie,
Oh, Mozman's here. So hello, Tim, Jeff, and Leslie. Long Rider, nice to see you, my friend. Haven't seen you in a while.
David, the drone weather photography.
Yep, we got David.
Thank you.
David, hopefully you're sober enough to watch the show tonight.
So today we're going to start as usual, where we gather here with the news and rumor, and we have obviously a couple of weeks of announcements. We're going to go through that briefly. Then after that, there is some a little bit more detail. We want to get into some rumors or news or things that are happening in YouTube that could be beneficial. We probably talk a little bit about the C9 two rumors at the end after the presentation, correct? And I think that's going to be led by Jeff. And obviously, also if there is any follow-up discussion on the ZR, correct? Then I think 20 minutes into the show, so in about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes, we will get into the feature presentation, which is, as we said early on, is the astrophotography series, the so-called introduction, which is a single exposure, and that will be led by Robert Bob Rosado. Okay, so after that, I got a couple of images for the photo sharing. I believe Jeff have one image they want to share, and then we will, as usual, finish with the whatever discussions that we have on the news and rumors, and then we will have the upcoming live stream announcements or for the shows that are coming. So that's what we have. Uh, so since we did already the what have you been doing to, then let's go to the rumors. As usual, we separate the Nikon rumors from the other systems on YouTube. So on the Nikon side, we have the Nikon CA firmware 3.10, which is mostly bug fixes, although I saw from my Erwin that there is something beyond the fixes. It's bring all the different software to the same level. Anything else, Roy, that you want to say about the firmware or Jeff?
I just installed it myself 2 minutes ago. I've
Okay.
got to go grab my 70 to 200 and install that firmware too.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, it seems the only thing I saw on it was a couple of bug fixes, which I mean, I can read it verbatim. It's kind of boring actually, but it just one of them was, it says the following filtered playback criteria items marked with a check were deselected after the camera was turned off and on again, like protect, picture type, rating, select for upload to computer, select for upload FTP, voice memos, and retouch pictures. So they fixed that. When power was applied via USB, the camera failed to retain the focus position saved with the save focus position function turned on in the setup menu after the standby timer had expired and reactivated. It says don't, and then there, and that's it. And then there was, cautionary note from Nikon, and Viltrox has a cautionary note that they put out, do not update your firmware on the Z cameras when you have third-party lenses attached to them, because it could cause potential issues or malfunctions. So you want to make sure that you update your firmware on your Z cameras with, if you're going to have a lens on it, make sure it's a Z Nikon Z mount lens or Nikon lens. Do not have a Viltrox or anybody else on there.
Just a lens cap.
And that was it for that that particular firmware update. And if there is more to it, I don't know.
Excellent that they bring in that. Then on the third item that I have there is the Nikon rebates in the US that started I think September 1st, right? And indeed, the interesting thing about the rebates is that with the rebates on the Z6 III, the prices of both of these cameras, the C6 III and the ZR, are now the same at about $2,200, which is, I think, very good that they are bringing the more cinema camera and the more photography related camera almost at the same price, right? And so these sister,
Almost the same camera.
yeah. So it's a great combo that they have there. And apart from that, I think we saw the prices going on with the tariff, and certainly for now with the rebates, they are back into where they were before the tariff. So there's people that still wanted to buy some lenses. I think this will be a good time. Then we have, of course, the fourth item there on our list is the Nikon. Some discussions and interviews have been, I think it was reported by Petapixel, of the Nikon CR and the V Raptor XE, where this and the next item got they have an interview with the basically the Japanese executive from Nikon that took over the imaging division, correct, and Red, and he said that both the CR and the V Raptor XE have been developed into an unusually rapid cycle for new cameras, correct? And in the same interview, he basically mentioned the next item, which is that Nikon is going to develop a series of cinema lenses for which we now saw the silhouette. Correct? It's a system of cinema lenses, okay, with the same roughly shape, weight, and gear that looks to be like a fixed focal lens, correct? And those cinema dedicated lenses are going to be different from the Z cinema. So, any comments on this, Mr. Jeff, or anybody else?
No, well, I mean, it's just a shadow of what is to come, and I think Matt Irwin recently put out just in the last day or so put on a little bit of a topic talking about the development of more cinema lenses as well. But I mean, he didn't really have any information any more than what we just said. So time will tell. But I mean, I think the ZR was surprising in terms of how quick it appeared, because I think most people were figuring they weren't going to see a Nikon Red collaboration to that extent, maybe for like another 8 to 12 months. So I think that was a surprise for a lot of people, and kind of like dragging out the ZR discussion a little bit more. And I mean, for those who haven't already probably had their fill of YouTube content, looking at what people are saying about the ZR, and there's a lot of comparisons out there, and this is normal crap. Let's compare it to the FX30. Let's compare it to the C50. Let's do this. Let's see who wins this feature, who wins that feature, so on and so forth. You can go on and on with that. But I think the value for the money, I mean, obviously there is not anybody that can touch that feature set for that $2,200 price point. And for a lot of people, I mean, you can almost buy two of these cameras for what it costs for the competition right now for buying one of theirs. So, I mean, and for those who, there was one reviewer who was pretty, I mean, made a valid point, not a lot of, no built-in, extra thread connections to hook up accessories to the physical body of the ZR. But obviously we all know that, and I showed it, we showed it on the show, that small rig, a small cage for that's going to have plenty of threaded connections to hook up articulating arms and extra screens or microphones or whatever you want to use. I mean, the low end one is going to be, like $90 or less. So, I mean, it's not, even if you add the $90 onto the cost of the camera, you're still way, 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 way lower than everybody else. So, So we'll see how that works out. But I think most of the reviews out there have been extremely positive. There are people that I think that didn't want to be too positive about it, that got surprised and had to admit that, hey, it's pretty darn good. And the thing that I think is an important point too is for those who have Sony glass, and which there's nothing wrong with that. You can buy that new adapter and you can put the Sony lenses on the Nikon body. So I mean, you don't have to throw anything away to be able to use the Nikon body and still use your Sony lenses. So if you want to see multiple comparisons between the NR and the FX30, and I'm sure there's stuff in there with the new Canon, there's a lot of video links on Nikon Rumors that you can go to and watch for those of you that are interested in doing that. And where are we time-wise? Do we want to?
We still have a few more minutes, so we can continue on this one. Finish with this page, and then let them know what we're going to discuss after. So obviously, I just saw just before I was getting ready something from Seaway talking about the cinema lenses, the new developing cinema lenses, and he being a little bit concerned that these may distract Nikon from the photographic side, both either lenses or cameras. I don't think so, but I understand where he's coming from. Then of course we have a lot of third-party lenses, Typox Chimera 50 millimeters, Astro Photography 80 millimeters. I think it's a series of lenses on the I think lights, which are cinema as well. So many people are going at this cinema, including Canon.
Zeiss has a 50 and an 85 1.4 for the Z mount, but I'm sure it's not autofocus, that it's manual focus, because I don't think they really have any autofocus ones.
But these, I think, I cannot see them in my own slide, but I believe these are like the old Tamron, that you can put different lens adapters for the different lens mount. And I think even today there was a couple of Viltrox lenses here. I'm not particularly excited about any of these. Perhaps the 9mm 2.8. That would be an interesting lens. Jeff, you have that wide angle, but I don't know. Anybody has a comment of these lenses?
No, the 9mm is an APS-C lens. The 25 millimeter, or excuse me, the other one is the 14 f4 is for full frame. But if you got a 14 to 30, zoom, would you get this standalone 14 millimeter? I don't know if you got the Z mount 14 to 30. So I'm sure obviously the 14 is going to be, I'm assuming their 14 millimeter lens is going to be a little bit smaller, but like I said, there's so many lenses coming out. You got the 7 Artists. An interesting lens is a Cine lens. They got the 7 Artisans 120 millimeter, and it's a T 2.9 macro, 2x macro lens for Z mount that's going to be coming out, and so people may find that to be very interesting. And then you got Viltrox coming out with a 135 millimeter f1.8 lab lens for Z mount, and Laowa's coming out with a 12 to 24 f5.6. It's an APS-C lens, but it's a shift lens. And then they're also coming out with a 180 millimeter f4.5 apochromatic lens called the APO CA-Dreamer 1.5 times macro autofocus lens for Z-mount full frame cameras, as well as Sony E-mount and Canon EF mount, and that sucker is only going to be $499. So that could be really interesting. 108, because I'm like, gee, I would probably buy a 200 millimeter macro if Nikon came out with it, but here you're going to have a 180 millimeter 1.5 times macro autofocus for $499. I'll be very interested to see how the reviews are for those who get their hands on that, and to see how good that is, because Hey, rather than waiting forever for a 200 from Nikon, I mean, if it's for $500, if it's rated good, I might think about it.
Certainly, the Nikon 200 macro is not going to be $500.
Yeah, no, it will not be.
So on the other side, and what I call other systems and YouTube, obviously, last week we also have the last couple of weeks we had the Apple iPhone event, correct? I think it was September 9. Then they issued 4 phones, including the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max, which of course it has ever upgrading number of cameras. This time it has three 48 megapixel rear cameras. And interesting enough, they upgraded the front camera, which has a square uh, sensor that allows them to do using center stage a bunch of things. Okay, so that's going on. I'm sure. Uh, I for one, I'm still in iPhone 12 and 13, so I'm interested on this one. I may upgrade to this one for a couple of reasons. Then there was announcement on I think this console called Petapixel from a company called uh, Pixboom Spark, which announced a Super 35 BSI global shutter, uh, which is 4.6K. That is a high-speed camera, which is 1,000 frames per second, and that's actually quite interesting for scientific operation, correct? I mean, Bob can tell you about that. The true high-speed cameras are super expensive, and this is coming as a Kickstarter. Starting, I think the full price will be about $12,900, but I think the Kickstarting point is going to be lower. Not something that will be buying or keen on, but certainly an interest in you. And then we have a bunch of lenses, right? Including a lot of lenses from Sigma, and I think interesting lenses from the OM system for their, you know, small sensor things, and of course then competing lenses here on the 25 to 300, the everything macro from both Sigma and Tamron. Okay, and finally, on my list here, and I have a YouTube from Steve Perry that we're going to discuss probably at the other side of the presentation from Bob. So we will come back to that after Bob. So this is worthwhile watching and discussing. I have something here, and Jeff has something here. So let's. We're 3 minutes later than I wanted. So let's talk about the presentation for today. I'm going to do a very brief intro. So I'm going to be mostly a part of the audience. So as you know, Terry, Robert, and David have been working on this idea to put a series of presentations about astrophotography. And that have been materializing over the last 6 weeks. We weekly get together just to make sure that we have the contents available for that. And that's what this today is the kickoff for that meeting. Now we have several objectives for this series. So this is kind of my vision of this. Okay, we want to share knowledge and experiences. Right, particular people that Terry, David, and Robert that do this more regularly. They say that than I do. Okay, so we want to encourage others in this community to try. Okay, so it's an opportunity to experiment over the coming months and weeks and months, experiment together, okay, and to provide. Um, they are going to provide simple how to do advice on both the acquisition portion and the processing. Obviously, together with this, we will see recommendations on equipment. And if we get good engagement on this presentation, we will have also all of them will be able to do Q&A through the chat and then as we go through the material. Okay, so this is kind of the vision of what we have for today. Obviously, when we talk about astrophotography, it is many topics, and these are some examples from these three gentlemen of what they have been doing. Correct, and as I said, it's always a combination of techniques. It's either Milky Way with light painting or star trails with particular landmarks and so forth, auroras with landscape and moon photos eclipse photos, etc., right? So you will a combination. However, we have divided in many topics. So these may evolve over the coming months. Maybe it may take us a year to go through this, right? But for today, we will have the general astrophotography and the single exposure that is going to be led by Robert. Okay, for October, we already had a presentation ready, which is Terry has put the presentation together on Star Trails, and then we have other topics here: multiple exposures, uh, how we do stacks and panels, deep astrophotography, which you saw the title slide, that Orion Nebula. That's a deep astrophotography photo. Very interesting subject, very specific, the type of equipment that is required. Moon photography and lunar eclipses. And then we have, of course, astro landscape, when we combine landscape with photography and line painting, eclipses, transits, and occultations. And of course, for all of these, we will be discussing equipment, camera, laser filter, triples, equatorial mount, useful applications that you may need, and processing technique and software. With that kind of the introduction from me, and give you a little bit ahead of what we intend to do over the rest of this year and next year. And I'm going to now handle here the presentation to Robert. So when Robert is ready, I'm going to stop sharing here and let him share from his side.
All right. Hopefully I can figure this out. Let's see.
So while we're waiting for Bob, so who else we have in the chat, Jeff, that joined since we last acknowledged? We have
Well, we got Pharaoh Man and Mookie showed up, and we got Art Bear, aka Ted. So we got those gentlemen that came in. So it's good. I mean, we're getting a few more people in here, and because I really think they're going to enjoy the Astro presentation. So if we don't get a lot in here watching live, I sure as heck, I honestly believe that a lot of people are going to be watching this after the fact, once it's just in YouTube, and then they will pop in and watch it. So
one of the things that I want to do, Jeff, I'm going to try, even in my backyard, with using some of the techniques you can join. I know they're going to be crappy, but remember we talk about that. See, we want to learn new skills. We want to show bad photos as well, correct?
yeah, yeah.
So it's an opportunity for us to experiment with new things.
But we are good. We don't have bad photographs. We are good
So, Bob,
photographers.
how's it doing with you? Can you share?
Oh, wait a minute. I could bring it
Apparently
up.
it's not
I got it. It's here.
All right. So
Let me
trying to
just
share,
make
but
it
I'm not
bigger.
sure if it's showing.
all right. All right. You're on. Bob.
You're on, buddy.
All right, looks like I'm frozen on the YouTube feed. All right, good evening, everyone. As Gustavo said, Terry, David, myself, and Gustavo have been meeting over the last month and a half or so. Trying to put something together here. And so what we're going to go through is sort of starting off with all the kind of the basics stuff. And for those who maybe have never done this before, or this will be helpful, or if you've done some of this, maybe some of this will be even more helpful. But so we're going to go over the basics to get started in astrophotography, including minimum equipment that you're going to need, exposure guidelines, focusing techniques, tips, and online resources. Not going to get too deep into into processing tonight. Not going to get into any processing tonight, actually. For the single exposure stuff, it's a lot easier, and there's plenty of videos on YouTube that you could look up for that. But when we get into focus stacking, image stacking and things like that, we'll get more into that there. And if anyone has questions, I guess type them in with a QQQ in the chat, and I don't know if Gustavo or anyone can just keep track of those, and we can get to them towards the end. All right. So I assume everybody can see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously you'll need a dark sky, and we'll get into more of what defines the dark sky in a few slides. The other thing you're going to want to do is plan ahead, especially if you're planning on shooting a Milky Way. It's always best to scout the area during the day first, and you can use an app such as PhotoPills to visualize where it's going to show up and at what time of the night the Milky Way core will rise above the horizon. There's other apps you can use too to just check it at home if you want, but with PhotoPills you can look at wherever area you're going to be photographing it from and see exactly where it's going to be and over what features it's going to be, because you'll be able to do the virtual AR. And if you're looking to align something with a foreground, it helps you do that. You don't want to try to figure this all out at night when it's dark. And speaking of planning, so you can see there the two pictures. The first one is a snapshot using the PhotoPills app, and I was trying to figure out where's the Milky Way going to line up with the foreground I'm looking at, with that park bench and so forth. And then below that is the final image. So it, helps you get that all aligned ahead of time. You know where to set up, that type of thing. You'll need wide, fast lenses if you're doing Milky Way. If you're doing things like the moon or comets or deep sky objects, then telephotos will work. Doesn't have to be a 1.8 lens for that. And main thing is make sure you get your night vision. Get your eyes accustomed to the darkness. Avoid bright lights. Have red a light available. We'll get into more of that later. So that's some of the basics, and we'll get into more tips and so forth later.
So Bob, for this type of astrophotography, this kind of planning ahead is utmost important, correct?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be dark, right? Depending on where you're going to be, you don't want to stay on the precipice of some mountain for the first time and never having done it and step in the wrong area. You want to be setting up there and know where to be and what to do. Obviously here in these pictures, I'm out in the field. It's kind of hard to fall off anything, but it depends on what you're going to go do. But the main thing is to understand where is the Milky Way going to be, if that's what you're doing, or where, if you're going to have some foreground in it. If you're going to just shoot the moon, you can do that from your backyard, right? Unless you want to, again, align it with something. So it depends on what it is that you want to go do. All right, so the simplest way to get into astrophotography is, as we've mentioned, just single exposures of the night sky. And if you want to incorporate a subject to do that. There are a lot of different things that Gustavo alluded to earlier for astrophotography that get a lot more complicated, and those will be a subject for another night. You can choose to shoot the Milky Way or simply any area of the night sky that's over a foreground subject. If you want to shoot Orion's belt or something like that, or the moon behind a foreground subject, or comets or meteor showers, those are other examples of single exposure astrophotography. If you want to include a foreground, try to find areas with some ambient lighting. You don't need much. So your foreground isn't completely black, and I got an example on the next slide, but sometimes just having a crescent moon behind you can help, or just ambient light in the area. Like the picture here, I think, Terry, this is one of yours, I think was just a street light in that area, if I'm not mistaken. So
Not really, nothing, just the lights of the church.
Yeah. So, again, the ambient lighting shows the building and gives you something of interest there, as opposed to just being black. If you're interested in Milky Way photography, there is a Milky Way season. It isn't visible all parts of the year. The Milky Way itself is, but not the core, which is what most people want to include in their photographs. And the core will only be visible between February and October in the Northern Hemisphere. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's visible for an extra couple weeks on either end, I think. They have a little bit longer season. And typically, the Milky Way is always going to rise towards the southeast at the beginning of the year and then be kind of horizontal as it rises. And then towards the end of the season, it'll be more southwest where the core rises, and it'll be pretty vertical when the core actually rises, the whole Milky Way. So like the Milky Way there that you're seeing is almost vertical there. This is just a couple of, they're nothing shots, but just to show you that the one on the left there, there's just ambient lighting that shows the pump house at this reservoir, and so it adds a little interest, whereas the other picture just shows the Milky Way and the foreground's completely black, so not much of interest there. That's all I was trying to get at with. If you can include some ambient lighting, it'll help. All right, so what's a dark sky? First thing you'll need is to find an area of the dark sky, and if that's not an option near you, then maybe you may not be able to see the Milky Way, but you can still take photographs of the moon or take star trails. The night sky is measured by the Bortle scale, which is classified in 9 levels, with 1 being darkest, 9 being the brightest, like 8 to 9 is city lights. For Milky Way images, the best time is to photograph during a new moon or within a few days of a new moon. And you can also, depending on when the moon sets versus when the Milky Way rises, even if there is a partial moon, you can get away with it if it aligns right and the moon is set by the time you go shoot. So you have to look, and that's what's the purpose of having planners like the PhotoPills app and things like that. You can see when the moon sets relative to when the Milky Way rises and when the new moon is and things like that. Continuing on dark skies, there's a website called lightpollutionmap.info, which you can go to determine the light pollution levels in the area you wish to photograph. And you can click on an area of interest, and it'll show a dialog box. I took some samples there of different areas. Where I'm at, that's the top one. That's like a Bortle 4 area, so you can't really see the Milky Way in there. Bortle 2, even Bortle 1, Bortle 3, is okay. Obviously, Bortle 1's you're not going to get any better than that. And there are light meters you can use if you want to find one, a night sky meter, but they're a few $100. But it's easier just to go through this app, and I can demonstrate it later.
So for if you want to, your recommendation, all of you, if you want to photograph a Milky Way, you will think for a location that has either class 1 or class 2.
You could even go. So the main thing you want to look at. So if you were to go to this website, right, and you click anywhere, it gives you all this information. I don't know if you can see my cursor.
Yes, we can
see it. Yeah.
Okay. So this SQM that's listed there, typically anything around 21.5 or higher is pretty good. So
Yeah.
You can get there. You're going from like 20 to 22 or whatever the lowest value. I don't have an example from an area that is a class 9, but so you can, if you're around 21 and a half or so, 21.6, maybe even lower, you'll get a pretty good view.
Okay.
You can try take a photograph and see what pops out, and then there's a lot you can do in processing later to bring out the Milky Way a little more, even if it's not readily visible or obvious in the images. And keep in mind where cities are, right? So because the Milky Way core is going to be again towards the south type of thing. And if, even though it may be dark in your area, if you're, 30, 40 miles from a big city and it's right aligned where the Milky Way core is, you're going to get a glow on the horizon that's going to kind of obstruct the Milky Way or part of it anyway, right? So it's something to consider. So move around, try a different location, try to be south of any major cities if you can. You'd have to look at what your situation is like.
So I also saw, I think it was in our discussion, that if you also are, let's say, close to the beach, you can shoot in the beach.
So that's what I have. That my last bullet
thank
there, right? So I don't know if you want, Jeff. I don't know if you want to just remove the names so it doesn't block off the bottom of the.
There you go.
Presentation. All right. And yeah, if you're, well, let me see if I can go over to light pollution.
But I think I started by, in my case, I look at what is here at home, what I can do, and how far is a class 1 versus a class 2 from my home, correct?
So I don't know if I'm still sharing
sharing.
the.
Yeah,
But is it
The map.
showing?
Showing the map right now.
Yeah. All right. So there we go. So this is the light info map. So right, you could go and for instance, let's say you're in Long Island or whatever. It's kind of bright, right? You're in a class 5 area, but you're looking out into a class 2 area. So you'll still be able to see the Milky Way, even though it's sort of bright in your area. You should at least give it a shot anyway.
So let's check, for instance, Myrtle Beach, where Jeff is. So if we go there and he tried to photograph something to the south from the beach itself, he can get.
Yeah. So, well, if he wants to go down here, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But I don't know where you are, Jeff, relative.
I'm right near the airport, man. I'm very close to the airport.
Yeah. But I mean, you may not be able to see anything. I don't know. Maybe that's one thing you can go try and just go to the beach and see what you're able to photograph and see. Now, this time of year, the Milky Way is going to be towards the west. So you're kind of, screwed by that because everything towards, the southwest is bright. But in the early part of the year, then you'd be looking more southeast and you might be able to see the Milky Way.
Yeah, I'm like you said, I'm in an area where I'd be fighting light pollution an awful lot.
Yeah,
right. But
you can use the photo pills, Jeff. You can use the photo pills and see where the Milky Way light is,
right,
depending on your position.
But if you want to go to this wildlife center, for instance, you probably have a decent opportunity there, and maybe different times of year. You don't have to travel far, I don't think. Yeah,
when you go down a little bit below, if you zoom in a little bit and go like where you were, that
to the wildlife center?
that down below where you see Santee Coastal Reserve.
Yeah,
that's probably about an hour and a half from where I live in Myrtle Beach. That's an hour and a half drive.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to this lighthouse, you got a good subject right there, and you can include the lighthouse in your images. The Cape Roman Lighthouse.
So the issue of exploring, correct? And this map allows you to do that.
Right. So you can look around, see what the levels are in your area, how far you'd have to go. It's you can see how bad the light pollution is on the eastern half of the country relative to the western half of the country. There's pretty much a demarcation line in the middle. And then obviously different parts of the world, Africa, there's nothing. Australia, we're Roy and Terry are, you got a lot of opportunities there, but as Terry well knows.
Lots of space.
Yeah. And David up in Canada, he's gone to a few places up there that are pretty dark.
I thought most
So-
Canadians live by the border.
Yeah. So that's a useful site.
Well, David has good night vision. Mine's totally gone now. I don't even like driving in the dark anymore.
Yeah, but that's glary lights and things like that. When you're out there in the dark, you'll be surprised how well you can see. All right, so moving on to the next slide. So the equipment. So cameras, you're going to want a full frame camera, preferably, as APS-C cameras will be limited with regard to your availability of a wide, especially a wide fast lens. Typically APS-C, your 18 millimeter full frame equivalent is about as wide as you can get, and they kind of tend to be in the 3.5 to 4 as far as the aperture, the fastest aperture, where you really want to be, 2.8 or lower if you can get it. Full frame, there's many lenses that are down to 10 to 14 millimeter with 2.8 apertures. You can also have your camera modified. There's a couple of different ways. There's like full spectrum, and there's hydrogen alpha modified. The filter that's in front of the sensor, get that modified. There's companies that do that. One of the more popular ones is Colari Vision. So for about $300 or so, you can get that done. And what that does is pick up, especially the hydrogen alpha sensor filter, will pick up a lot of the reds that are in the nebulas and so forth of the Milky Way, or if you're doing deep sky objects, there's some of the nebulas will be a lot more colorful. As far as lenses, just some guidelines. If you're doing wide, Milky Way or meteor showers and things like that, 14 to 24 zoom is a great lens, or 20 millimeter or 24 millimeter prime lens. The 10 millimeter, that's a specific lens. I'm not sure who else may have something in that range. If you're doing things like comets, you don't need anything that wide. You're going to want to focus in a little more. So 35 to 50 will be good, depending on if you're going to have a foreground interest in it. We'll show some pictures at the end to give you an example. Or if you want to zoom in on the comet itself and get the more detail on that on the tail, a 200 or 300 millimeter is useful for that. If you're doing moon photography, you're going to want to be at least 300, or 600 to 800 is preferable, and even higher. Even if you're using a 600 millimeter on a full frame, you're still going to have to crop in quite a bit if you want to really fill in the image.
Quick question for you. Talking about the modifying the sensor, is there filters out there that you can buy to put on the front of your lens that would give you a better effect without having to modify your camera?
There are filters that are useful for like cutting out some of the light pollution. I think Colari Vision also sells filters that you can just sort of clip into the back of into your camera or the back of your lens. I forget exactly. I haven't looked into it too much. I don't know if Terry, if you've had any experience with it, or David.
Yeah, I have one. You
The
can
filter?
use the Colari filters. You can use them between the lens and the camera. They have a
Right.
little magnet you can put there and clip
Right.
the filter.
All right. So do you have to? Does it just? I assume they're sized for every camera, right? So they clip in or something,
Yeah.
or how does that work?
Yeah, they have for certain cameras, not for everything, but yeah, you can ask for the model. You can check by the model of your camera.
All right. And then
As
you
for
can use it.
Answering Jeff, the filters on top of the lens to make infrared or things like that, it brings other problems on, like focus or extended time of exposure and all this. instead of the transitional normal camera to infrared or whatever.
Yeah, I think I mentioned on one of the shows that one of the Maven filters, Maven was coming out with a filter to improve that you could put on, magnetic filter that you could put on your camera that would improve the colors in the Astro shots that you're talking about. I don't think it's come out yet, but I think it is coming out soon.
Interesting.
So
right.
let me ask a question here on your favorite lenses for the three guys here, David, Terry, and Bob.
Well, from my perspective, I've really only used the 14-24, both F mount and Z mount. I don't own a 20 millimeter f1.8 or 24 f1.8. So that's my experience base. I know
Mine
David has used quite a few others.
Yeah, 14-24 and the 10. It is my favorites.
And the Z mount 14-24 is a hell of a lens if you can afford it.
Yeah, I have a whole truckload of primes that I use, and normally when I'm shooting the Aurora, I try to fill the frame vertically, so then I change the lenses so that I can do that. But my normal go-to is a 28, and right now I'm using a Sigma Arch. It's a 28. It's f1.4, and it is really sharp. And like I was using it last night.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. I have the Nikon 28-1.4. I've used that for the Aurora shots last year that we had here. So I like it.
So obviously, Terry, you have one of your cameras also converted using Polaris, correct? .com.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
my Z5,
since
yes.
this is the one that you basically change it, the filter, correct? Sorry, not a filter, the sensor in front of the sensor. Maybe for another future show, you can kind of show and tell how do you extract and put it on and off. Most of us will be concerned about something that you modify that you have to basically change in front of your sensor, correct? But you can give us a
Well,
demo.
I used my Z5 in the conversioner is full, which means I can use two different filters from Colari, one for normal light to have the camera using it like any normal camera, and the other filter from Colari is the infrared one, which helps me to do the infrared
Yeah, no, no.
photography. That means with one camera, I have two cameras.
Very good.
With two filters.
In one of the future shows, you can do a show and tell. That will be interesting. So
Yeah.
we got a question.
Okay.
We got several questions
problem.
before, but this one is one that perhaps Bob and you guys want to answer now. Is there is any advantage between a prime and a zoom in ISO?
Yeah, I saw that. So I think the main advantage for a prime, and for even regular photography, the main advantage for a prime is that you're going to have you'll be able to get a wider aperture, right? You're not going to find a zoom that's going to be at f1.4 typically or f1.8, whereas primes are you're going to be able to get them that wide open. So I mean that's probably why David shoots primes a lot. The zoom, like anything else, will give you some flexibility in composition, right? You can adjust it rather than have it to move.
Well, are you typically shooting these shots wide open, or are you stopping the lens down a little bit? But you're probably most of the time you're at
it depends on the lens, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. But some lenses will be better off if you stop them down. So yeah, you can get, for instance, 1.4 lens, but shooting it wide open doesn't look the best. It's maybe not as sharp, or it's got other artifacts that crop up in Astro, and you might be better off stopping it down to f2 or 2.8.
I mean, you're normally
So
focused at infinity most of the time, aren't you?
You are when you do things like light stacking and landscaping, astro landscape. You'll sometimes do a series of photos of the sky, which is at infinity, and then you do another series of photos that is your foreground, and you might be focused in a little closer depending on how far your foreground is. You might be able to set up and do your hyperfocal distance so that everything's in focus, but again, depends on what your composition is and what your setup is. But so there's things to consider there, because if you're going to do stacking images and you're going to zoom and you're going to focus in closer to your foreground and then also infinity, now you got focus breathing to consider, and some lenses may or may not be as useful for that, because when your image magnification changes as you change your focus, when you go to stack them later, it becomes more difficult. So there's lots of other details to consider too.
Okay.
But yeah, if primes will definitely give you the wider ability of aperture and be able to collect more light.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well,
right.
Currently, I'm switching back 70 to 200, and I get wide open.
Yeah, we're losing you, David. Breaking up audio-wise.
Okay. Yeah, I'm signal here. Okay. I may have to let you go.
Well, we hear you now.
You're good now.
Okay.
I don't know if you're sitting. I don't know if you're sitting on the roof or what.
No, it's I on my star tracker, I was using my 70 to 200 at 200. My computer says it's not 200 side, it's 196. And I since switched over to my 500 PF, because the camera mount for the for the 70 to 200 and the 500, it works with the 500, and my computer says my 500 is not a 500, it's a 492. But anyway, I've been taking 5-minute exposures, and if my lens was any dimmer, that 5 minutes would be 10 minutes, and then I need better equipment for that, because it's very hard to hold everything still for that long. So I'll go back to you, Robert.
Yeah. Yeah, the trackers, I think you're probably get limited to probably about 5-6 minutes of exposures before they start to get error built into them. So you got to get a lot more expensive equipment to go longer. All right. So besides cameras and lenses, you need other ancillary hardware. Obviously, you need a tripod. You're not going to be hand holding. Maybe the moon you would, but not for typical astro photography. Spare batteries. You're going to need a lot of batteries, or use a USB power bank, either for the camera or for a lens warmer. Again, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing star trails, you're going to be shooting hundreds of images. You're going to want a power bank. A headlamp with a red light source. This will help you maintain your night vision. A lens hood can help delay condensation from forming on your lens. Probably more helpful on larger lenses, telephotos, if you're shooting deep sky objects and things like that. But it will eventually start getting condensation, so that's where a lens warmer is going to be handy. But if you're not going to be there for long, you might be able to get away with a lens hood. Remote triggers. Yeah, helps to avoid camera shake. A tripod apron or stone bag, useful to place your gear there. You can put lenses that you're going to swap in and out if you're going to do something like that, or your USB power banks. You can just easily rest them there. And you can use them to weigh down your tripod if you're in a windy situation. And have manuals for your devices on your phone and tablet if you're trying to figure something out, how to get into a certain mode or whatever. You may want to have something at the ready to be able to look it up. The last one, a batten-off mask focusing filter. That's useful for deep sky object. I know, Terry, you may have tried it for regular Milky Way. I'm not sure if you were too successful, but it helps you define, when you're in sharp focus.
Yeah.
And then I was going to break into, some of these into more detail. So headlamps, again, a red light source is crucial. Help you maintain your night vision. A thing to keep in mind if you're going to be shooting an area, Milky Way, especially if it's somewhere that's popular and there's other photographers, just remember to practice, good etiquette, and don't just turn your light on anytime you want, because other people may be taking a picture and then you're going to affect their image. So just either tell them ahead of time, hey, is it okay to turn my lights on or not? And then having a red light, again, is helpful because it doesn't blind them if you're just using a regular flashlight or whatever. Most headlamp manufacturers will offer units that incorporate a red light. Petzl has a few, Black Diamond has a few. There's also a company called LED Lenser that maybe not as popular or well known. I like them. They're a German company. They have very good flashlights and headlamps. And there's also a company called Zebralight that makes a headlamp that is just a red light, and is highly customizable as far as the output. It's a little bit kind of, you got to rub your belly and stand on your foot and click 7 times. It's not easy to just customize it, but you can do it if you needed to have that for some reason. And so these are just some examples of them there in the pictures. The one on the left is the one from Zebralight. The middle one there is a Petzl. That specific one's like $88, but there's another one that's like $35. The LED Lenser on the right is also $35. If you were to go to a place like REI and just look at headlamps, and then you can filter it by red lights, you'll find probably about 30-50 different lights available. So
do you think, is it a big deal? You recommend getting one that you can adjust the light intensity, or is that not critical?
I don't think it's critical. It's nice to have, but it's not. It depends how frustrated you want to get, because that Zebralight it definitely has a lot of adjustments. All these other ones are just going to be one intensity as far as the red light is going to be concerned. It's on or off. The main lights are adjustable, and variable. But so the only one that's variable that I know, that I'm aware of, that doesn't mean there isn't another one, is that Zebralight. But it really is, you got to like press the power button like 6 times and then hold it and then turn it. I don't know. It's like, it'll frustrate people to do it. So it's not one that I would recommend for any person. If you want to look into it, zebralight.com, you can easily go look it up, and see if you really needed to, if you find that the regular, red lights that you find on a Petzl headlamp or something like that are just too bright, you could go to something like that. I think
will
they're fine.
buying a dedicated one. And actually, I looked today after I went to the Rocky Mountain National Park, because I was, trying to fumble between my light, between the different modes. It was a pain, right? So I probably will have either one that is dedicated for red and one that is for white, so I don't have to remember how many, switch combination I have to do for the.
Right, and for any of these, right, you can buy 2 of two different of the regular
Exactly.
like pencil lights or whatever. And most of them, you know, once you set them on red, they'll stay there until you
Exactly.
change it to white. Right. And even with that zebra light, if you know, it may be finicky to try to change the settings and so forth, but once you get that done, you're not going to be changing them from, you know, maximum to minimum. You're going to just find a level that's comfortable for you.
Very good.
All right, that's headlamps. There's plenty of them out there. Like I said, just look on rei.com and see what they got there, and whatever your favorite outdoor
Bob,
gear
before you
site
move
is.
on, I see there was a comment from Mike Farwell saying that
Okay.
also the red headlight attract less insects and bugs, which
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, I hadn't
that
considered
makes
that.
sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So lens heaters. If you're going to be, especially if you're, you know, in an area that's kind of muggy, you're going to get condensation. If your humidity levels are higher. There are many companies selling USB powered lens heaters nowadays. It used to be that the lens heaters that were available were like 12 volt, had to be powered by a 12 volt system, and then you needed a you know, something in between to bring it down to 5 volts, and it was a big contraption. But they're mainly designed for telescopes and things like that, where you're going to need a lot more power because they're bigger. So, but if you go to Amazon and do a search for lens heaters, you'll find a bunch of them, right? Most of them. This is 3 that I bought to, you know, I just bought 3 of them to try around. The main thing, they're not that expensive, $20-$35. And the main thing you're going to want to know is what the length is that you need. So measure your diameter of your lens and calculate your circumference, or take a tape measure and wrap it around and figure out your circumference. And probably
I was
the
just
width
going to
of
say,
it.
how much
Go
of the lens does it actually cover?
It's not.
Okay.
I have a picture later on. So it depends on obviously the size of your lens, but you probably don't need to cover. You're not going to cover the whole thing, right? Because you still need to be able to
Right.
access certain things. You
Only
really
the
want to
front
be.
element.
You're going to be at the front
Okay.
element, right? Because that's the part
Right.
that's going to get condensation. And they'll typically you can see like I was pointing at my screen. Like
Oh, we can see
where my finger
the
is.
pointer. So I mean, you're looking at like maybe what, like 2 inch, 3 inch wide section there.
Oops. What the heck did I just do?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was this is a control for high, low,
Yeah.
medium, or off type of thing, right? So that you can see they typically all have something. All right, remote triggers. There's a big selection of remote triggers. The top half here, these are all Nikon specific ones. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the MC30A, and that's the 10 pin for most of the like the Z8, Z9, all in the Pro and Prosumer DSLRs. Then there's the MCDC2, which is for like the smaller full frame, like D600s, D700s probably series, D7000s. And these prices are list prices. You can find them cheaper, you know, if you go shooting on eBay. But you got to be careful. A lot of these are like the MC30A. There's a ton of counterfeit stuff on eBay. So you got to know what you're looking for. It's just a switch. So in the end, it's probably not a big deal, but I just don't like to buy counterfeit stuff. And then the ML7 is a wireless Bluetooth remote that you can use in some of the mirrorless cameras and a few others. Then there's another wireless from Nikon, the WR11A and WRT10. That's the current version. That's $300 or so. The older version was a WR10, which is what I have a photo of. And then there's third-party wireless remotes that are useful for any camera. So pocket wizards are one. You need to have a specific cable to plug into your camera. Velo Freeway Fusion. That's a fairly inexpensive way to do it. You'll need a specific model for your camera because it plugs into your camera.
Unfortunately, not that durable.
and
I have broken a couple of those before.
Have it? Okay, I've got the Young Nows, which are pictured there, and I've been using them for years and haven't
No,
had
I
any
talk about the
problems.
Velo.
Yeah, it's
I'm
funny
sorry?
though. You know, it's sad that the
Okay.
10-pin connectors are going all over the bodies. You know.
Yeah. And then that last one, there's a Cam Ranger 2. This would be overkill, but I mean, you can use it because this allows you to completely control your camera. You can change the focus, you can change the settings, you can do whatever you want, but you can do it all from your phone or tablet. So you could be in your nice toasty little truck and control it from there. And then just the photos there. Little funny story on these. So this is the WR10 here in the top right. So that's the transmitter and the receiver, and then this is just an adapter that goes to the 10-pin. So I was buying an MC30A on eBay, and it was like $2 or something like that. There was asking. It wasn't like a buy it now. It was like a bid thing, right? And so I saw this thing, and I put a bid on it, and I got it for like $2.80 plus shipping. And it had this bag on it, and I didn't think anything of it. And when I got it, the bag included all of this.
That's good.
So I got a free WR10 set. This is like a $280 trigger. So it was obvious whoever was selling it was not a photographer because he had no clue.
Yeah, sometimes
What
that
was
works
in that
out in your
bag?
favor. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So that was one of my best purchases on eBay. Just a picture of a setup. So tripod on the left there with an apron, and my specific tripod that I use. I've got a couple of heavy duty tripods that I use. This one is a really right stuff TFC 34. This isn't fully extended at the moment. I also got a Gitzo that's bigger. I can walk under that Gitzo, and very stiff, fairly light, less than 4 pounds for the tripod itself. Tripod head, BH55. That's pretty heavy duty tripod head. You don't have to get something that big. I just happen to have it set up on that camera, on that tripod. A BH40 or smaller, or any, whatever your favorite tripod head is really. And like I said, the apron, the utility stone apron, that particular one is a Vanguard SB100. I think they got another one that has a hook on the bottom. Manfrotto also makes one that has, I think, partitions in it. It's got like 3 sections. That can be helpful and not helpful. I haven't quite figured out if I like it or not. And Leo Photo also makes them. They're all around $25. They're not that expensive. And so on the right, I just have it set up with the camera. You can see the dew heater on the lens there. You're going to be towards the front of it. I added a strip of Velcro on my tripod legs, so you can see where I just put a little piece of the mating half of the Velcro on the back of the trigger, and I just keep it there to have it handy, and then I can just don't have to hunt around for where it is. It's always there. And then, your USB power is there for the dew heater, and your apron's just a good convenient place to store it.
Now, if you were kind of going backwards a little bit here with this question, but if you had a full frame, like you said, full frame is better. But I mean, if you had a full frame 24 megapixel sensor versus what's in a Z8 or Z9, the 45.7, would you use it?
I've shot with both.
The 24?
I've shot with a Z6. So it really depends. The 24 is maybe a little better for noise, but but you don't get as much resolution. I've shot with both. You can get good pictures of a 24. You can certainly get good pictures of with a 45 megapixel sensor. Noise, I think, is less of an issue nowadays with the denoising software that's available. I don't know, Terry and David, what your experiences are, whether you prefer a large resolution or 20, 24 megapixels.
Z9 for me.
I've shot with. Go ahead.
Okay, right now I'm using my D810A, which is a 10-year-old camera with 33 megapixels, and I'm using ISO of 6400, and I do not have a noise problem.
And that camera though is pretty good at high ISO, right?
Well, that's why I'm using it.
Yeah, no, that's a specific. So we were talking earlier about Astro modified cameras. The D810A comes modified from the factory to pick up the hydrogen alpha of the. That's what the A4 is, Astro.
And it's for a 10-year-old camera, it is excellent. I do not have a problem with it at all. And actually, Roy says he's looking for one because that's about the only camera that I have that he doesn't.
Yeah, I picked one up myself last year, about a year ago. It was actually a local.
Yeah, I know you did.
And that's the one that doesn't have the.
It's
that's the one that doesn't have the Moire filter, correct? I think
the what filter?
The low pass filters removed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember, I think it was the 810 or that they came into models, correct?
Well, the 810 is the previous generation of the 850, but then the 810 came as an 810A, which was the Astro version, and 100, not 64.
Okay.
And so it's geared towards Astro from the sensor filters and so forth, and also the noise levels. I picked one up last year for about, I think, 1,800 or so, or 1,500, and it was hardly used. It had 1,000 shots on it.
Yeah, because I think what I remember now discussion is that the 800 came with two models, correct? One, the model.
Yeah, there was the 800 and the 800E, right?
Exactly. I think I got both of those, but that doesn't have an Astro mode. It was
no.
Exactly. What this one does have, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, the 810A is only for Astro, nothing else.
All right. So getting into exposure. So obviously, the wider your lens is, typically the longer your exposure can be before you start to get noticeable star trailing or streaking of the stars. You can allow for some minor star trailing if it's a very wide shot, and it'd be hard to notice it. It really depends on how big of a print you want to make, or if you're just going to look at it on screen or something like that. So historically, the one of the popular rules, and this is mainly probably more given toward maybe the film days or the early DSLR days, was this rule of 500 for calculating exposures. And you would essentially divide your lens focal length into 500, and that gives you the number, your exposure duration. So if you had a 20 millimeter lens and you divide it into 500, you could have an exposure of 25 seconds and be acceptable. A lot of folks think that's a little bit too long, and especially if you're going to do large prints, you're going to see trailing of the stars with those kinds of exposures. I don't shoot anywhere near that long, and I know David and Terry don't either. So one option, and that's one of the ways you could do is this rule of 500. If you have a crop sensor, you got to multiply it by the crop sensor factor. So as I mentioned, rule 500 doesn't really work with modern cameras, mainly because of the higher resolution and so forth. And you're going to start picking up that noticeable star trailing with using the rule of 500. If you really want to have pinpoint stars, then a more accurate method is to use the MPF rule. And the MPF rule was derived by a French astronomer, and it's a complicated formula that uses the aperture of the lens, the pixel pitch of the sensor, and the focal length of the lens to determine what your exposure should be. So if you've got a 45 megapixel camera, you're going to get a different exposure out of that calculation than you will if you're using a 24 megapixel camera. And there's an article on Photography Life. Obviously, that's not going to be a hot link for you, but if you want to go to it, you can copy that, or maybe Gustavo can try to put it.
Just do a quick screen grab on your computer for this slide, and then you'll have it.
That talks about the MPF.
The photo pills.
MPF versus the 500 rule.
The photo pills
Yeah,
have
and I'll
both.
get to that in the next slide here. So,
Sorry.
so you can use photo pills to calculate what your exposure should be using the MPF rule and your specific camera. These examples here show the comparison of an exposure based on the rule of 500 using a 14 millimeter lens. And I'm not sure if you can see the values there with the compression factors on YouTube and so forth, but using a 14 millimeter lens, and then the equivalent exposure based on the same 14 millimeter lens using the NPF rule, which takes into account the camera sensor. And the two different panels are just whether you want to have, there's an option when you go into photo pills over here on the right side of the panel, and you can choose accurate or default. And default will allow for a little bit of trailing, that is hardly noticeable. And then accurate is going to be really sharp stars. Whereas so for these two examples on the accurate setting, you get an exposure for 14 millimeter lens and an f2.8 on a Nikon Z9 of around 8 seconds, 7.7 seconds. In the default setting, it's about twice that, 15 and a half. The rule of 500 is 36 seconds. So it's a big difference. So shorter exposure, going to definitely give you sharper stars. However, now you got to compensate, right? Because of the exposure triangle. So you're going to have less time collecting light. You're going to need to amplify your sensor and your output with a higher ISO. So if you were shooting for 36 seconds at f2.8 at ISO 1250 to get down to an 8 second exposure, you're talking going to ISO 6400 per the MPF rule. So it'll be a little bit noisier. Although a lot of sensors nowadays are ISO invariant, so it probably wouldn't really matter too much. But and it's just a trade-off between having sharper stars or a cleaner image. However, again, as we mentioned before, with the noise reduction capabilities that we have nowadays, you can easily deal with ISO 6400. You can also do a technique called image stacking, which is a topic for a future presentation. That essentially you take a bunch of images of the sky, and there's special software that you can just put them all together. And because digital noise is random, it looks at all the images and says, all right, this is noise, that's a star, and throws out all the noise, and you get a pretty sharp image.
Obviously after alignment, correct?
Yeah, what it does, you tell it, I'm not going to get too much of into here, but let's say you take 15 images or 20 images, it picks the image in the middle, or you can tell it what to pick, and then aligns the ones before it and the ones after it back towards the center. and there's a lot more that we can get into with that. And obviously using a faster lens will help you dealing with noise because you'll be able to open it up and get more light in there. But as I mentioned earlier, you know, an f1.4 lens, depending on its design, could have some drawbacks. You may not be as sharp as an f2.8 lens. It may have more vignetting, or you may have coma aberrations, which is a pretty big thing depending on the lens. And I'm going to get into them more what coma aberrations are if you've never heard what that is in the next slide. Any questions on this before I get to that?
No, I think the looking at hearing you, I think the way to go is obviously knowing the subject, but maybe photo pills, which can be used for planning, but also for having your exposure. Okay, and then play with the different options in photo pill and see what please you.
Yeah, and I end personally I end up just shooting around 6, 8, 10 seconds, and I don't really use photo pills now anymore, but you can certainly get an idea of what it's going to be like. And I just look and I zoom in. Okay, is it trailing or not? And then I tend to do that on my own now.
Now, it's not having. I've heard of photo pills. I've read about it in the past. Is that a free app or is that?
It's not a free app. It's $10, but it's a one-time purchase. It's not a subscription.
All right.
It's very useful for a number of things. You want to do solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, meteor showers, Milky Way. There's depth of field calculations, determining hyperfocal focus points. So you can use it for landscape if you're trying to figure out what's the hyperfocal distance, so that if I focus there, everything is in focus.
And the planning that you mentioned before.
I'm sorry?
And the planning that you mentioned before.
Yeah. And virtual reality planning and so forth. And if you typically, I know I bought it before they did this, or before I found out about it, but usually in November for Thanksgiving, for Black Friday, they usually have have it up for $5. So, I mean,
well, $10 is nothing really.
$10 is nothing, but if you
pay for photo gear, what's $10, right?
I know, but if you're not planning on using it for the next few months, that you don't have a need for it, wait till November and get it for half the price.
Yeah.
And what I found, Jeff, I haven't used it that much. The user interface can be a little bit complicated, but I think we will have some live demonstration in the future of photo pills.
Okay.
All right. So coma aberrations. So coma aberrations, they manifest themselves as little wings, essentially, on the brighter pinpoints of light in an image. They can be a bear to try to remove in post. Especially if you have a field of stars. And it typically is going to be on the outer corners of the image. So your top left and top right areas if you're doing astro. Your lower one is probably going to be foreground. You can reduce it by stopping the lens down a bit. So that's what I was getting at earlier. You could have an f1.4 lens, but then to get rid of coma, you're down to an f2.8 lens. So, you could do it that way. So these examples,
or like you said, if you're using a 45 megapixel sensor, you can just do a slight crop.
well, that's it. That's the thing too, right? You can do it that way too, because it's not going to be throughout the whole image.
Right.
If you're shooting on a really wide 14 millimeter or something like that, and you get terrible coma on the edges, you can crop it down and get rid of it. That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
So the bottom left picture there, that's a 20. That was Nikon's f-mount 2414. I ended up renting that lens when I went to do Astro for the first time, and you can see. And keep in mind these are quite a crop, zoom in crop here, but you can see all those little wing. Oops, damn it! I did it again.
Yeah, they look like crosses.
Yeah, so the little pinpoint there just has, it just bleeds over on the inside. the next two are, I have the F mount 14 and 24, and I have the Z mount 14 and 24. So I took these pictures about a week ago for this, and it's the exact same star pattern as you can see. I hope you can see. But you know, these stars are all the same. So I tried to get it pretty even. And on these are all wide open. These are both at f2.8. And the F mount has a little bit of coma on it. You can see a few of the brighter stars have a little bit, but it's nowhere near as bad as that 24 f1.4.
No.
But the one on the right, that's the Z mount. There is nothing.
That's perfect.
There's no coma in that lens. Wide open. And you also can see it. I don't know if you can see it really well with the compression and YouTube, but the Z mount is significantly sharper than the F mount, and it's more because just the F mount isn't as sharp in the corners. If you were to look at the center of both of these images, they're both equally tack sharp, but the Z mount is sharp corner to corner.
And dark is dark too. It doesn't have like a different, like a other color.
Well, and keep in mind, this is probably just my processing of that image on the left, and what the way that was the first time I was shooting it. And
well, I mean, between the F mount and the Z mount, I mean, the Z mount just seems to be,
yeah,
you
maybe a little darker,
crisper, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
definitely color wise, I think is probably more accurate.
And these are I think I took these at maybe 8 seconds or 6 seconds. It wasn't these aren't a long exposure. So that's just something to consider for really, for wide, fast lenses, is that in dark contrast areas, cityscapes, like the 51.2 that the knocked, that was a thing that was supposed to knock out a lot of coma. I'm not sure if it did or not, but that old F mount lens was supposed to help with that.
What about the 20 millimeter 1.8?
I don't have any experience with that. I don't know if David or Terry have. I as far as the Z mount or the F mount?
The Z mount.
Yeah, I think David uses the 21.8 once in a while. I don't know about Terry.
Yeah.
No, I'm using only the 10 from Laowa and the 14-24 generally. The Z mount is.
I've got the 20, and I don't use them that much, so I really can't comment on them.
The 21.8, from my understanding, is a very good Astro lens. Has very, but it's got a little focus breathing. So if you're doing sort of stacking, I'm trying to think if this is if it's the 20 or the 24. But I thought the 20 had a little bit more focus breathing than the 24 does. I don't know if you've had any issues with that, or if you've had to use it in that fashion where you focus on two different distances.
Yeah, we will try. We're very good about
something I'll have
right.
to experiment with, because when I shoot Aurora, it's usually always at infinity, but but anyway, it's something more to try.
Yep. All right. So that was exposure. So focusing techniques. Again, you're in the dark, and you're trying to focus on these tiny little pinpoints that you may not even be able to see. So one thing you can do, first of all, from a composition standpoint, you can set your ISO very high, like 12,800 or higher, and it becomes it's a terrible image, but at least you can see where you want to be composition wise and how the area is going to look set up. And then you can also zoom in at 100% and check live view to try to focus in on the stars. you're going to want to turn off autofocus on your lens, and or use a completely manual lens if you have one. You may want to turn VR off. Sometimes that'll be fighting you, but if you shut off autofocus, well, VR is going to be trying to fix shake. So not all lenses, especially wide lenses, you're not going to have VR anyways, but on a telephoto, that might be something you want to consider. And so once you're able to see the pinpoints, you're going to just sort of rack the focusing ring back and forth until the star is as small as possible. So just practice doing that a few times and get to the point where you think it's as small as possible. And then, you can reset your settings and take an image. You can also try focusing on if you got some hills in the background that are far enough away, and you see a light tower or some other subject that's got a light on it. You can try focusing on that because it'll be brighter than say the stars that you're trying to focus. Or if the moon's out, maybe the moon is behind you, you can turn your setup around, focus on the moon, and it'll be bright, so you have no problem focusing on it. And then once you focus, shut off, lock that in and recompose your image, and so forth. You can try to use, some people have used like tape on their lens once they focus to try to make sure they don't accidentally, touch the focusing ring during their images. Just be careful once you put the tape. You want to go recheck your focus. So take an image and make sure it's still sharp. And then once you got your focus all set, reset your ISO. Take a sample shot. Zoom in. So and it's going to be a repetitive process. Go back and forth as you need to until you're comfortable with that you got it right. Don't be afraid to spend some time doing it.
Yeah, it's not costing you anything but time. You're not shooting film.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a comment about Z-mount cameras, is that if you turn the camera off, the focus changes. It doesn't matter if you have your camera on manual focus and your lens on manual focus, the focus still changes. So you have to check it every time you change batteries or play with the power or anything like that. And this doesn't happen on the Nikon F-mount cameras, only the Z-mount ones.
Right, because the default setting for the Z-mount cameras and lenses is that when it turns on, it focuses to infinity. But not all the lenses. I think there was an article I saw or a YouTube video I saw, and somebody commented on it, and I tried it on my, and it varies by lens. Some lenses will go right to infinity. Some will be slightly off. And so, but you can change that in your settings and disable that function so that whatever you change the focus to, it'll come back to that. Now, being focused by wire, I'm not sure what happens there, but you should be able to shut that off. But at least try anyway, see if that works. Manual lenses are great, but they tend to be older lenses. So it's practice is really the kind of point here. We talked, this is some useful software and applications. Photo pills we talked about, useful for planning, star trails, alignment of sun, moon, Milky Way, etc. As I mentioned, you can use it for exposure, depth of field, hyperfocal, distance, etc. There's another app called Planet Pro. I have no experience with it. I've heard about it. Some people have used it. It's a similar thing to photo pills, probably about the same cost.
Much more complicated.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay, you have it. You used it.
Yeah. Not anymore because it doesn't work on Android anymore.
Ah, okay. So maybe an iOS only. I think PhotoPills works on both, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another useful both website and app. The website is free. The app you have to pay for because, of course, is Stellarium. What's cool about it, you can see how things are going to line up from your living room and pretty easily. I can show you real quick if I go to stellariumweb.org. I think I have it. So this is Stellarium. And you can, move it around, pick where you want to be. And then there's the time scale over here. You can set it for real time. And then you can decide, all right, where's the Milky Way going to rise? Okay, so there's the Milky Way core. And so, so it's telling me that at, run right around 8 o'clock, 8:30 or so, the Milky Way starts to be visible. And then you can see where it's, when it's set. So by, say, 10:30, 10:45, the Milky Way core starts to set. But you can use this for anything. Like, for instance, I'm not sure if you guys heard, but there's a new comet that's out now. C2025 Swan. And that's, you can find that on here. So right now it's just below Mars. So if I were to zoom in here, there it is. There's a comet that's going to become visible soon. And then you can plan for when is it going to be visible while it's dark, right? So right now it's just around twilight. So I tried last night, I couldn't see it, but in a few days I might be able to see it. And then you can just play around with the days and see, okay, how's it going to line up? And so it's a useful app. If you want to see where satellites are or whatever constellation, you can show the constellations. You can have a landscape or not. Deep sky objects, turn them on or off. One cool thing, night mode. If you're going to do this, say on a tablet out in the field, you can set this so again you're not getting your eye night vision screwed up. So.
That's good. That's good.
So I like Stellarium. It's very useful.
And how much is the app?
I think the app was $10 again. I don't know, but I got it about 5 years ago. I don't know what the current pricing is, but if you do a search for Stellarium, you should be able to see it. Then there's also, maybe people have some of these already. There's a bunch of apps you can put on your phone that you can just point to the sky and try to identify stars and planets and so forth. So Sky View, Solar Walk, Star Walk. There may be others that are useful to say, okay, to align yourself. If I know I'm going to have a deep sky object that I want to photograph, and it's going to be in a certain area, you can try to guide yourself that way. Let's see. So we're getting here towards the end. So tips and recommendations. Add some reflective tape to the legs of your tripod, help you avoid tripping on them. Buy as sturdy of a tripod as you can afford, especially if it's windy or if you're using large telephoto lenses for moon images. This is the case for wildlife photography too, I suppose. Experiment in your backyard. Just try different shutter durations to see at what point star trails start to show up or just become unacceptable to you. What do you want to do with the image? Do you want to make a 30 by 40 print of it, or you want to just do a small you're just going to look at it on your phone or put it on a screen. Don't be afraid of high ISOs. 6400 ISO can easily be managed with denoising software or image stacking software. Bring plenty of batteries or use a USB power bank. Always a good idea to have a buddy with you, especially if you're out in some remote location and nobody knows where you are in bear country or whatever. Have somebody that's slower than you if there's a bear.
Well, go out with a big guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have to be fast. I just have to be faster than you.
Yep.
And have fun. That's the main thing. Is just enjoy it, experiment with it. So I don't know. Before we get into some of the images, I don't know if there are any questions that are still out there to be answered.
Not that many. We have been posting them, and you have been answered a lot of the questions as well. The only thing it was Jim early on asked if the PowerPoint will become available. So
It's up to you how you guys want to do it. I have no problem having it become
exactly.
available.
I think in principle, yes, and as I indicated, we probably will create a separate video out of this portion of our general meeting today.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to send me, the native file or whatever, and
Well, I can PDF it, and that way you can.
yeah, PDF it, send it to me, and then I'll just send something out, notification saying, send me an email, and I'll send it to you or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Easily done.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a little show and tell then. And some of these are mine, some of these are David, some of these are Gustavo's and Terry. So we can each talk to our specific ones. This was the first time I tried to take an image of Milky Way. This is up at Acadia. And this was on my D810 with that aforementioned 24 by 1.4 lens that I rented. It's more or less why the square crop, because there was a lot of coma on the corners. You can probably still see a little bit of it here. So this was a 13-second exposure, wide open, and ISO 1600. This was nothing special, but I had taken there was a gentleman in the area, a local photographer, that was giving a night photography course. And they do an event around the new moon in September, which is right around now, every year, and they call it the Sky Festival, Night Sky Festival at Acadia. And so this guy, it was like $75, and we did a 3-hour sort of a session inside a building, one of the buildings there at Schoodic Peninsula. And then afterwards, we all went out and practiced, in the field next to the building. So that's all this is. And I remember when we went out, it's like the Milky Way was just like in your face. Even though it's only a Bortle 2 area, you're looking out over the ocean here. So again, it was pretty bright. This one's Terry. I'll let you talk to it if you want.
Well, it is as you have the kindness to put the setup down. It is a Nikon Z9. I use my favorite lens, the 14-24. It was just 8 seconds at 32 ISO, 3200 ISO on open wide. Just one shot. We're just playing around.
Now, did you have to time it, I assume, for the lighthouse to get at a certain point, or?
Nah, it is it turns around. I just got the light when it is away from us.
Yeah.
I just waiting for the to start. It was starting from the right side. It was taking about 15-20 seconds to go to the other side. I shoot on the middle, or the beginning, the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was wondering with a single shot how that worked.
Yeah, and not much of on purpose, not much of post processing.
Yeah. This one's David's. This is the one we had on the front of the presentation. But
Yeah, this is where my trailer is currently set up, and this shot here was 2018, so it hasn't moved much in 7 years. This is my D600, and as you can see right there, and it's 30 seconds, 2.8 ISO 4000. It works, and it's just it's a good place.
yeah,
Dave is like the hotel chain there. He keeps the lights on for you.
The red light. The red light.
Well, they're not red at this time. I should say back when this picture was taken, but I do have a complete set of red lights and white lights in the trailer. So when for the Astro Photography, you only use red, so then you can be inside it and go outside and whatever, and not have to worry about tripping over everything.
He doesn't want to be confused with the red light district of Astro Photography.
Yeah.
Well, there's more than one kind of red light district, Gustavo.
Yeah, well,
you
yeah.
understand, you know.
Exactly.
Maybe you know about the other one, but I don't.
that'll be a subject for another.
Yeah, the universe interprets that in a different way.
Okay, now we go to the next shot.
Next shot.
Next shot.
Well, this one is pretty well the same place, except looking in a different direction. The first one is looking south, and this one's looking northeast. Yeah.
Now, is that Mars over here?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Because that my other this picture here, that's Mars.
Yeah.
Which was
One of the things that I find useful of all this, like Skyview and all those software, is that if you don't know what it is, you can go back in time and point in the direction, and it will show you the sky as it was that day.
Yeah, because the date and time are in the XF data. And
yeah.
And this is another one of mine. It's downtown Calgary. And this is a moonrise. And
So yeah, Astro can
go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
Well,
no.
I'm not too sure if this is a multiple exposure or a single exposure, or maybe a multiple on the buildings, but that's where the moon actually came up at that time. And it was more good luck than good management, because I just happened to be going out to shoot the sunset when and I stayed around, and this happened.
Yeah, what I was going to say is just Astro is not just, field of stars or whatever. You can, anything that's in the sky at night, you can. There's flexibility there. So moonshots definitely, I think, account for that. Depends how specific you want to be in the genre.
And you notice that with my photography, I've been using older cameras, and I still haven't switched over to my Z8 and 9 yet. I'm using mainly DSLRs, but I have been using my Z8 for time exposures.
Yeah, I've been using the 850 a lot and the Z9. I've used the Z6 here and there, and the 810A now that I have that. I think this one's mine. This is just obviously the moon. The thing to note here, this is when you're doing moon shots, sometimes you're better off not waiting for the full moon, but taking it at some other phase of the moon, because the light is coming from the side versus straight on. So therefore, you get a lot more detail down in the periphery of the moon, and you can see the depth of the craters and so forth. When you take a picture of a full moon, it gets kind of washed out because the sun is directly behind you, essentially. So that if you want to do moon photography, sometimes it's more interesting to do one that's a waxing or waning moon phase.
Side lighting.
I'm insulted here. I don't see any cheese,
Sidelight.
man. There's no cheese.
You eat it.
So I don't know if you guys remember, there was Google Earth. They came out with a Google Moon. And when Google Moon first came out, if you zoomed in far enough, it turned into cheese. I don't think it still does that, but when they first came out, they were at least had a little sense of humor.
Greg's looking for
So
UFOs.
this is with a 600.
He wants UFOs.
Yeah. So this was on my Z9 with the 600 PF 6.3, and this is not the full screen, right? Not the full image. I've cropped in quite a bit. Again, the point I was trying to make earlier is that even with a 600, the moon is not. You're going to have to crop in a bit. And with the moon being very bright, you don't need much of an exposure. 800th of a second at f9, ISO 640. This one's Terry's.
Yeah. The same principle as you did. That was with 100 photo with a 1.4, as you showed.
Yeah. And this is more of a full moon.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe a little bit off, but
Probably. I'm not absolutely sure.
yeah. This one's yours. This is a lunar eclipse, right?
Yeah, that was shot in the from the city. It was I didn't know much about the red moon, so that was my first red moon ever, and I didn't know about totality, phases, time starting and time finishing, and all this. I just saw the red one and I saw it. As simple as that.
Yeah. And another way you can tell it's a lunar eclipse is because you can see stars around the moon.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would not be able to see
Exactly,
those stars.
yeah. As I saw on my last traveling to Lulu before doing a week, I have the proper red moon in this case.
All right. This one, I think, Gustavo, you sent this
So
one, right? Yeah.
this is actually not the moon; it's the actual sun. It's the Venus transit a few years back, correct? And this is a kind of event that you can take. Obviously, you need filters for the same type that you use taking photos of the eclipse. But you can see here that in front of the sun, you see the basically Venus passing across, right? And in this
Right.
case, at the beginning, we have a clear view of the sun, but as it was getting closer to the horizon, there were some clouds, and actually that makes the photo a little bit more interesting. So sometimes a little bit of cloud for this type of photos of the moon or the sun can add to the and you see maybe you can point as well. There's a couple of hot spots as well, right? Sunspots. Yes,
Yeah, right there.
yeah. So anyway, so that's Venus transit don't happen that regularly, correct? So they come in pairs. I think these ones. I think the next one will be like 100 years from now. So worthwhile keeping on what happened in the heavens and deciding what to take.
Speaking of transits, one thing that I've been wanting to shoot, and it's just a matter of timing and getting to the right area, is a transit of the moon with the space station, for instance, as it goes across. And there are websites that you can use to determine when the next one is. I forget exactly the name of it. I had it listed, but if you're interested in that, you can do some research.
And there was not a question. There's a question here from Greg asking about UFOs in the photos, and obviously this is not a joke in terms of UFOs, but I tell you, a couple of nights ago when I was in photographing in Rocky Mountain National Park, I pointed the lens, my lens, until to the moon, which was actually the moon was almost nothing, but you could see the Earth's shadow in the moon, correct? What they call the Earth illuminated the moon. That's a good of a kite it was, and there was a lot of things passing in front of the moon that were not airplanes. So satellites and stuff. So nowadays with so many satellites, you stay watching the moon, you will see a lot of things in the sky passing in front of it.
There's a movie, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. I forget the name of it. It was a funny movie about essentially the Germans had built a base on the dark side of
Yeah.
the moon. And they thought the World War II was still going on because they'd never left and they somehow get back to Earth.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But there was a lot of things,
I'm going off.
guys. I was
I saw
watching,
the movie.
and I saw a lot of things passing in front of the moon. You know, you could see it coming into the moon and going across. Obviously, probably satellites, correct? They were.
Yeah.
Now the sky is so full of satellites that it's almost impossible not to catch.
That'll be the official story.
Exactly.
Yep, and stick with it.
And stick with it.
This is also a picture of the moon.
Exactly. With the sun behind. Exactly.
With the sun behind it.
And actually, in some of these pictures, so this is, as you guys know, on this genre, I tend to gravitate towards the long telephoto. So I think I have become an aficionado, like I think also Martin, photographing eclipses. So this was eclipse in 2017, the so-called Great American Eclipse. And
Yeah.
then after that, that was photographing Wyoming with the D800E that we were talking before. And I see that little dot there is Regulus, which you can see as well.
That's Mercury.
Mercury or Regulus?
No, it's Mercury. Because I took this exact
Okay.
same image, and in Oregon. So that I remember seeing that you would be able to see Mercury in close to it.
And it was pretty nice. So I went when we got the next eclipse, which is the next image, right? With a more active sun because we are in progressing the cycle of the sun at this time. You can see a nicer image of the corona, right? And this was taken last year, correct? And then in this combination of different exposures, you can even see some of the flares from around the sun as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The next time I do it, I want to be able to see if I can get an exposure that starts showing the detail of the moon.
Yeah, and I did that, and actually in the prior, in both of these years, different to combine, so you can see all the mare of the moon as well.
Right.
Is it called Earthshine, or I was saying? So it's basically on the obscure part of the moon, even with the regular moon, as I told you a couple of days ago, you could see all the details of the moon in the shadow. You also look by the reflection of the light coming into the air and reflecting into the moon.
I figured with the 9-stop bracketing that you did, you might have been able to see that. But maybe
although this is a little bit different, but I mean, since we have a couple of eclipses coming up, okay, in Europe and later on in Australia, definitely next year we will do a special presentation about both the taking photos of the eclipse, but also processing, because these will require special processing. All right, next.
Yeah, right. That yep.
Yes.
This
So this is the full moon. Actually, again, we can talk, but this was during early in the year during the Mars occultation, right? So basically, the moon.
Oops, sorry.
The moon passing Mars passing behind the moon, right? And then you can photograph both the moon and Mars. So that little red dot is Mars, and so it's quite fun to take that one. Of course, it's during full moon here, and in order to get good detail in the full moon, again, you require some processing and some filters in Photoshop, and you can get quite a decent detailed amount of details in the moon.
And again, you can do this in your backyard, right? Because I did the same. I did this same picture, and just outside my garage. Don't have to be anywhere special when you're doing moon shots. Where I am relative to Gustavo, Mars was closer over here to say 2 o'clock, and before before it went under is over here around 8 o'clock. So just a little difference in location. And these are some wonderful aurora shots from David.
Yeah, this is in 2017, which is 8 years ago. So just because we're at a solar maximum, that means statistically the sun is more active. But that can actually happen at any time. You get stuff like this, and this night I had two cameras out, and one was facing north and one was facing south, and it lasted for an hour and a half each night, and it was just simply amazing. It didn't matter which direction that you looked, there was something to see. Like you need eyes in the back of your head that night. But like I say, this is the D600 with the Nikkor 20mm f1.8.
All right.
And like I like to take short exposures, and that's why I want fast glass. And I don't mind the high ISOs. And I found out lately with my Astro Photography, all this stuff that you think is noise, they are actually stars, because I have I'm shooting with my 500 right now, and I have thousands of stars in every frame. And you just wouldn't believe that the number that's there.
Yeah, when I take some Milky Way shots now, I try to actually reduce the amount of stars. You can go through and process it in Photoshop, and there's an add-on that you can buy for Photoshop that essentially eliminates the stars. It sort of takes them all out, and then you can add them back in gradually or whatever, or add them at a reduced level and a separate level. Because otherwise, sometimes you lose the beauty of the nebulas and everything else with just all these other stars in front, around it. But that's just further, more advanced processing type of stuff.
Yeah. Like all of this stuff they're learning.
Yep.
Okay. And this is actually the aurora over downtown Calgary.
Jeez.
And so just in that in Calgary's population of 1.2 million. So just because you have a big city there with lots of light doesn't mean you can't get stuff like this over it. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it happens.
The only problem, you have to push your city a little bit north.
Well,
yeah, it doesn't work in Houston.
well, yeah, Houston's is a little bit too far south.
I mean, if we have it in Houston, we have to say, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah,
That's where it comes from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So you got a lot more reds out of this, right? With that.
Oh,
antenna?
I had to adjust my other cameras to match the 810A, because the last thing that I want is to be out shooting with 4 cameras and all 4 of them look different. You know,
Yeah.
but there's lots of reds in the 810A.
Yeah. Which 12 millimeter is this? Is that a Loa as well, or is that a different company?
That's got to be the Lawa. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful image. This one's mine. I think I showed this last year at one of the photo reviews. This is the comet we had last year, C2024 comet. I forget what the Sushun something or other. But this is not a wide angle. It's a 24 to 70 at 36 millimeter. Like I was saying, something in medium view. You can still pick up things like this. And this is actually just moonlight. There just happened to be pretty much almost a full moon behind me. So this is just not artificial lighting. It's natural light coming from the moon. And like I said, 850, 2470 at 36 millimeters and 1.6 seconds f3.2 ISO 640.
And the moon did the light painting for you.
Exactly. The moon did the light painting for me. You can see a shadow here on the tree. This was, I don't know if you remember, this one I took behind Newgate Prison, Jeff. And so this is just a shadow of Newgate, of the building behind me. And then this is just the same comet with the 70 to 200. So again, you can easily use a telephoto lens for comets. So 1 second exposure.
Trail. The trail is cool on that.
Yeah. And this was a comet in 2020. This was the Neowise comet. Again, with a 7200. This is the F-mount version on the D850. 3 seconds, F5, and ISO 6400.
The thing with comets is that because they are always close to the horizon, there is always chance to put something in the focus.
Yeah, you're always going to be either before sunset or after sunset or before sunrise type of thing.
Exactly. And they can be beautiful.
Yeah. And this last one's it's the only image I had of a meteor. This was maybe years ago. I think this might have been the Geminids because the leaves are off the trees. So this was probably in November timeframe. And this was my D7000 and 20 millimeter f2.8 AIS lens, an old manual 20 millimeter that I had. The exposure is really, I'm doing 10 seconds just because I'm giving it time to try to capture a meteor coming through, right? You don't know when they're going to show up. So, if you can set yourself up for when you're doing meteors to do 10, 20 second exposures and just have it set up on an intervalometer or something to just keep taking 10, 20 second exposures or even 30 seconds. And then hopefully something will show up in one of those. I probably had 50 shots before I got one that showed a meteor. That's the thing with meteor showers is you're kind of at unless you're like in a heavy meteor storm, shower storm, that they're coming in, hundreds an hour type of thing. You may get luckier.
Well, that looks nice, especially with a lens of that age. That says a lot for the lens.
Yeah. And I think that is the last one. Yeah.
All right. Did you guys have any questions? Let's go back to the review. First, Bob. Wow. Incredible. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Very, very, very comprehensive presentation. I think this should help a lot of people, including myself, to at least give it a try All right, and I hope all the people here in our community do the same. But wonderful presentation. Thank you as well to Terry and David for all the help and the coordination of our weekly meetings. But there is more to come.
Yes,
Fantastic.
excellent job, guys, and collaboration and
Very nice.
setting
Very
everything
nice.
up and whatnot. I mean, wonderful images to show at the end, and fantastic job. And Bob, good narration, and you answered all
Thank
the
you.
questions on the fly as we were going. So you passed the test tonight.
and the depth of the technical knowledge here, correct? I mean, all the proper technical background that was provided here, guys. We all have to be grateful and appreciate the effort here. And I'm sure this will be a video. And maybe when we distribute some of the slides, and we're going to be going back and forth to investigate this. And let's all give it a try and sharing our experience. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. And the nice thing is, at least with this this introductory presentation, you're not talking about going out and spending a lot of money either.
No.
You probably already have what you need to do it in your bag already.
Exactly.
Worst case, like Bob said, worst case, make sure you got a good tripod though. Don't skimp on the tripod.
Number one equipment.
Spend $10 on buy photo pills and things like that.
Yeah.
You may find that your tripod will not fit in your bag, but everything else should.
Yeah, a lot of times I just shoot out of the car type of thing. I go to areas that I can drive to. If you're hiking, that's a different thing, right? You're going to want a smaller tripod if you're going to hike to the top of a mountain or something like that, depending on what you want to shoot.
Yeah, and Bob alluded to that in the safety portion. Obviously, good when you have a buddy or some other photographers, so you can participate in special events, correct? If you are not doing this on your own before. But let's all start in our backyards just to find out what we can get. Right? So more to come. Next one in the lineup will be Terry, and that's going to happen a month from now.
Oh, he's hiding. Dun, 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 dun.
So
We got the crosshairs on Terry.
thanks again. So we probably at this point we will publish this portion as a separate video as well, right? To see if we can get some more traffic when people know that they can get this wonderful content in our channel on so many subjects, but in particular in Astro Photography. Let's try that, Jeff. Thank you.
Yes, very good. Very good, everybody. Robert, thanks so much for your time. I mean, I know where you work, and I know you don't have a lot of spare time. So,
Hey, we're waiting for Robert, for Bob to retire. Then he will have plenty of time.
oh, Bob is waiting for Bob to retire too.
Yeah. I got to have a talk with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you have conversations with me, myself, and I, they're always very difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You guys helped a lot in guiding me through it, and so it gave me a lot of ideas to try to do. So I appreciate everyone's help, Terry, David, and Gustavo on this. So.
All right, so let's go back to our other topics for the day. So, Jeff, what do you want to go over the C9 two rumors, and then we go back to Mr. Steve Perry?
Yeah, I got, we'll do the Z9 stuff, and then we'll jump to Steve, and then depending on what time of the hour it is, I can talk about a little bit of rumors on the other camera brands as well.
Yes.
But there wasn't much with the other guys anyway, other than them talking about third-party lenses that are going to work on their cameras for the most part. So it seems like every week it's just third-party lenses. But It absolutely drive you crazy after a while.
Yeah.
Let me bring up. Let's see if I got it here. Okay. So there was. Let me make this bigger. All right. So there were some slides leaked, and you can, as they say, take it with a grain of salt, because it is
A lot of salt.
it is Nikon rumors. It is Nikon rumors, right? It isn't Jeff rumors.
Yeah.
It's Nikon rumors. But I mean, there's always a little bit of fiction and a little bit of truth buried in here, and you can choose what you want to believe and what you don't want to believe. But let me like just zoom in on. Obviously, and it's like da 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 da. This is what we're talking about. Beyond limits. I feel like the outer limits right now.
Looks the same.
It looks the same as the Z9, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It doesn't look any different.
If the one thing I wish they would fix though is that lock button on the portrait orientation.
Oh yeah, I hate that thing.
It
It's
is
always
the worst iteration of a lock on that button every time I accidentally unlock it.
I would rather have that be like, remember on cameras where you used to have to, you have to push a button to turn the dial on the camera. It should be the same thing. You got to push a button to then move it in the lock or unlock position, move it in the unlock position, because it rubs against my side when I'm walking or whatever, and the switch goes on, and then I get home and I got 30 pictures of the sidewalk.
But the ones on the grips, for instance, they don't have a lock button, but they're stiffer and they don't accidentally get turned. So it's just a matter of putting a stronger spring in there, and they can fix that.
Yeah, that is frustrating. That drives me crazy. So let's see here. So according to the rumors, they're going to have a double bare layer color filter array, stacked CMOS sensor, and it has variable low pass filters, which is another slide that shows that a little bit more. And you're going to have supposedly 4 times faster readout speed compared to the Z9. Binnable dual resolution options, so that you have the 45.7. I misspoke before. I don't know why I said 47 megapixels, but I meant to say 45.7. But I'm old and tired, so that's why I said 47. But they're going to have this feature supposedly where you have pixel binning, and you're going to get a 22.9 megapixel image, and that's not DX mode. That is not like instead of DX mode. It's in addition to your DX mode. So then we will move down a little bit here, blow that up. So control with a low pass filter that's able to have 4 different strengths. You can have the low pass filter turned off, normal, high. So I mean, we'll see. I'll just say we shall see if that's going to happen or not. And this is nothing different than what we have now. So there's really nothing to talk about there. Now, this if true would be interesting. Well, I think everybody was assuming that we'd have a X-Speed 8, but if they want to call it an X-Speed 7 AI, well, whatever. Saying 4 times faster than what we have now, and obviously that's going to give us a much higher frames per second rate. Finally, people can't complain. They won't be able to complain that the camera doesn't do at least 30 frames a second, because they'll be doing a lot more than that, and we'll have the numbers a little bit later. Handles complex autofocus and auto exposure calculations at 240 frames per second. New AI unit, improved decoding and recognition performance, provides 4D autofocus, supports automatic focus subject selection, and double still and video maximum shooting specifications. So we will get to something that some of us have been asking for in a second here. But the first, it's going to have. Now, I don't know if this is really true anymore, because, you had the ZR that came out, and the the Z6 III was rated for 8 stops, but then the ZR, due to new calculations that they're using, said it's only 7.5 stops of vibration reduction. So who knows if this is really truly 8, or the new recalculated 7.5 stops. I don't know. Focus point VR prioritizes stabilization on the active focus point. You have that now on some of the cameras. Enhanced stabilization for video based on 4D tracking. Enhanced motion subject speculation. This is a lot of speculation, isn't it? So we shall see what's. And I think it's not going to be overly surprising that probably a lot of the improvements with this camera, just like with some of the stuff that's now in the ZR, is going to flow its way into a Z9 II. One would expect that it has some more red color profiles and whatnot available in the Z9 II. So they're saying, you still have in-camera RAW, what you have now, ProRes, HEVC recording, inline audio, N-Log 2, using red wide gamut RGB color space, the Log 3G10 curve, which is something that's available in the ZR. It matches the red workflow that you have now. If you still have, if you have other red cameras, the higher level ones, full res oversampled, that would be really interested if that's true. If everything is basically 6K oversampled 8.3K, and 4K oversampled from 8.3K, that would be interesting if they do that. 32-bit float line in audio. I mean, that's the same thing they just put in the ZR, which is best in class. So that would be great if they do that. High-res digital zoom. I'm just skipping over. I'm not going to read every single thing. 14-bit NRAW. That will be interesting to see if they do that. HEVC 10-bit 444. Versatile ProRes Kodak. And I didn't pre-announce. I've done a few that showed up as live videos recently to throw some extra content in the channel. And one thing was kind of like a personal, getting off track here slightly, but a personal pet peeve of mine where I did a live stream that was pre-recorded, something new and restream. I can pre-record it. I can dump it into YouTube, and then a chat will show up. And if I happen to be there when it airs, I can comment in the chat, and people can talk to me. We can go back and forth. That worked out pretty good. But I did a thing called the cost of high-end video, and without getting into a lot of detail on that, but you see all these specs that you see, 14-bit NRAW, if that's true. Let me tell you something, guys. You're gonna be buying a server for your house. The rate they're going with this stuff. And what was interesting, I'm not going to get into all the content that I put into that video. If you're interested, in my opinion, you can go on there and watch it on the channel. But basically, I think it's kind of a disservice that we all get enamored by all these features, and we got all these YouTube content creators, showing us, oh, look, it does this, it can do that, look how good it looks, it's beautiful, and it is, and people do great content. Obviously, these guys that do it all the time, they make it look real easy. The results are phenomenal. You get your juices flowing, you get all excited. Well, let me tell you what, until you go to import it into your computer and you find out, gee, my computer's 5 years old and it can't support this stuff. My computer locked up. I can't do crap with it with these files. They're too big. In some cases, like the Nikon RAW 8.3K is over 1.2 terabytes for an hour's worth of footage. So over 500 gigabytes for 30 minutes of footage. So who is going to have typically going to have the processing power and the storage to handle files like that? I mean, you have to have basically, I got an M1 Mac, which, research said I could process a 6K format, but 8K, no, not really. And when you're getting into if you're getting into 14-bit NRAW and whatnot, let me tell you, you're gonna have to have the M4 chip or the M3 Ultra, and you're gonna have a ton of memory in it. You're gonna have RAID systems or NAS systems to store the files if you're gonna keep them, and it gets extremely expensive, extremely fast. And I talk about the costs, I talk about the pros and cons, and I could have gone even further and talked about the accessories that you may end up buying, in addition to just buying the camera, because you have if you buy a small cage for it or a bigger cage for it, and all the accessories that you can put on it, and a larger monitor if you wanted it. You're adding $1,000 or more on top of the camera just with that, and you're not even talking, oh, you need a new computer and you need all this other new stuff. So be careful what you wish for, because what was interesting, I watched a very long video from Morton Hilmer the other night. I mean, I don't know how long it was, but I think I corked off during part of it. He had the ZR in his possession he is a Nikon ambassador. He had the ZR in his possession for 19 days. And as part of his presentation, which was excellent, he showed H.265 footage. He showed 4K. He showed the 6K footage. He showed it with different, using the red RAW R3D, that new 12-bit RAW that's in the ZR. And he showed all the different ways of processing it with different codecs and things like that. So you could see the different effects. And he honestly, and he was honest, which was great, because no one else has ever said this before. And I watch a lot of videos. He said the new red RAW in that camera, the results are phenomenal. They're fantastic, blew him away. But then he said, most honest thing I've heard a guy say, he says, but I won't use it. He says the file sizes are gigantic. He says that doesn't fit his workflow. He doesn't want to deal with files that big and the processing power that you need to do those files. And he typically shoots H.265 10-bit 4K 30. That's his bailiwick. That's what he shoots for his video productions, his what he shows on YouTube and things like that. So that's probably like the first time I ever heard someone who is a professional photographer, is a like I said, a Nikon ambassador, say, yeah, that high end RAW file was fantastic, no doubt about it, but it's a lot of file. It's a lot of data.
But
It's for the video people, man. It's for the people using video. All the people using video capabilities on a professional grade, they have all this machinery. They have no problem. That's not for us, at least.
No. It's not. It's not for, and it's definitely not something that like I said, I priced it out. If I wanted to be able to handle stuff like that, I'd have to probably spend at least $3,600. Not counting, I'd keep the monitor I have, but I'd have to spend $3,600 on another computer, Mac Studio computer, to be able to do that. And I don't make money doing it. I don't make a
To do
nickel.
what? To make a
Why do
YouTube video?
I do YouTube? So why would I ever shoot that?
Exactly.
And I think
We
people
don't have
really,
a 8K camera TVs so much available to show 8K video anyway. Well,
right. Who has 8K TVs? I don't know anybody who has an 8K TV.
Yeah, but it's good to have the capabilities.
Well, they use it for grading and stuff like that, but I think that's a little bit overblown. I think if you
But I mean, even somebody that produces a lot of video like Mike Erwin, he doesn't shoot raw all the time, correct? So there is a gradation there, and it's good that this camera has the capabilities, correct? And certainly for some of us, if we shoot any of this format, we will shoot only for a few seconds, correct? Anyway.
Yeah, I think if you had a choice, most of those people would still, if anything, they would shoot 4K oversampled 6K.
Yeah.
Not necessarily 8K, but like I said, the people, a lot of those people, they have the resources and they have people that help them do the work and stuff like that. So they're kind of in a different world than most of us.
Exactly.
But they are trying to. All the companies are trying to, let's realize too, and we all know this, that the professionals are not what keep Canon, Nikon, and Sony profitable. It is people like us, so they have to try to convince us that we need that because we're the ones that are buying all the cameras. The pros
marketing.
Right. Pros aren't buying all those cameras.
Well, but also future proofing for the people, correct? I mean, eventually those that witness something special and they photographing in 8K, those files will be good in 30 years, 50 years.
Well, you and I are probably not going to be around that.
I know. I'm just making the point why those things have to come up fast.
But but anyway, we'll move on from there. And they talk about, we already know it has an all electronic shutter. That's sub 1 millisecond, which is the case now. But they're, they got the binnable dual resolution stacked sensor. So if they're making it out like it's a new sensor, even though it's the same resolution, 240 frames per second, auto exposure, autofocus with smooth blackout free live view. And we pretty much have blackout free live view now. Now pre-release capture available in all stills formats, which means you're probably going to have pre-capture for RAW.
I hope
That's
so.
how I read that. That's how I read it. And the buffer is totally nuts. Full resolution, 45.7 megapixel RAW. You're
Don't
going to
forget all these are rumors, right?
Yeah, rumors. 60 frames per second, 1200 shot buffer. That's like crazy. And then if they do this, like I said, we have to talk like, we're just reading what they're saying. We don't know how much is true, how much is false. The 22.9 megapixel or as they say here, or DX crop mode. So they are different things. They're not the same. Maximum 120 frames a second, but we also have 120 frames per second now for DX. 1/80,000th of a second maximum shutter speed, flash sync, presumably up to 1/800th of a second in the full resolution, and up to 1/1600th of a second at 22.9 megapixels. And that was it. And the only thing that was it for their slides. The only thing I had written down was it was going to. I can find my cheat sheet somewhere. Well, I think it was going to use. I think it's a 5.6 million dot EVF in the Z6 III. and that was gonna get put in the Z9 too. A little bit higher resolution EVF, which would not. I would expect that they would do that. But that's kind of like where the rumor mill, where these slides magically appeared from, where they originated from. It could very well be a Nikon leak, because I mean, my personal opinion is they're gonna. I may be totally full of smoke, but I think they're gonna try to do this like they did the Z9, and they're gonna say it's under development in December. You're gonna be able to, get it sometime in the first quarter of 2026. I think they're going to do pretty much a similar time frame that they did with the Z9.
The odd thing about those slides were they were all the old pictures from their initial release.
Yeah.
You would think it'd be new pictures if they got a new release.
That's always a worry.
Yeah. Yeah. So
The same guy jumping the hurdle, the same guy taking pictures of the ballerina. Every single image was from 4 years ago.
I believe it when I see it.
Click.
Oh yeah, you gotta wait and see. I mean, I hope they do. I hope they do it the same, phase it like they did the Z9, the original one. I think that would be pretty neat.
Well,
all I'm saying is that the validity of the slides is, in my mind,
It's questionable. Yes.
Given that none of the images changed.
I believe. I mean, if we try to guess what's going to happen, probably we should see another firmware for the C9, correct? Just to put
at least one more major firmware update for
level with the other cameras, and then the announcement probably in December.
Yeah, I gotta imagine.
Well, I can wait 1, 2, 3 more months to see the real one thing instead of spend my time with the rumors.
Exactly.
We see crazy rumors all the time anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, there are a lot crazier ones than that. There's some like places like Tech Radar or whatever. I mean, they'll put stuff out from a year or 2 years ago with insane theories of what Z9 II would have. I mean,
that's all.
That is like absolutely. I mean, that makes this look a lot more real than what you read on some of the other places. Let me tell you.
That's what I'm saying. That's the long time now, almost a year now. They have the Z2 out.
Yeah.
Because they have the brother of the sister, a friend of the godmother. Yeah.
Well,
they have the inside line.
My paid informant that I can't say who it is that works there and is, chummy with everybody.
We have Ron in the chat.
Hello, Mr. Pollard. How you doing, sir? Nice to see you. Let me just jump ahead. We're getting where it's almost midnight here, and I know Gustavo has a few more things, and we got a few pictures to share too.
Yes.
Sony rumors quick. There's a discussion on Sony rumors and video on the new Sigma 135 millimeter f1.4. And it's interesting, just so you know, that lens is going to take a 105 millimeter filter. So get out your wallet for filter. Wow. And it weighs 2.91 pounds. Excuse me, 2.91 pounds. And the Sigma 200 f2, they're ascertaining that they expect it to be priced around $3,500 US. Fuji rumors, I didn't see anything in there really worth talking about. Canon rumors, this is kind of interesting. The Canon PowerShot G7X Mark III is supposedly back in production, but there's a hitch with that. It is listed on B&H. It has been there on B&H for $849, black version or silver version. Basically a 20.2 megapixel 1-inch stacked CMOS sensor. I'm not going to get much into the details. 4K 30, full HD, 120 video, 20 frames per second shooting, raw 30 frames per second burst mode. But on Canon's website, they made a statement on Canon's website stating that camera, they plan to ship the products in order, but due to the large number of orders they had received in the past, It will take a long time for delivery. Please note we are currently not accepting new orders. So basically, if you've been waiting for this thing for who knows how long, you may eventually get one, but no one else, they're not accepting any new orders. So if you have an interest in it, you're out of luck. Canon announced the RF 85 1.4 voice coil motor lens. They also talked about. Go ahead.
I love those voice coil motors.
Yeah. They got supposedly in the down the road a RF 3 to 600 millimeter lens, f4.4 to 5.6 IS USM lens coming out. And we all know the Canon Cinema EOS C50 has been announced, which will be, obviously compared to the ZR along with the Sony camera FX30. And that's really all I had. There wasn't a ton of stuff out there unless you wanted to talk about 75 third-party lenses that got thrown out all at once. I mean, absolutely mind-boggling how fast and how many Chinese lenses are flooding the market at
That's
this
right.
point.
Every now and then there is an interesting one. So
Yeah, they're not all junk. I mean, Viltrox has come a long way. I think their stuff's actually pretty good, and the Laowa lenses, some of them have done really well. I know David likes the 10 millimeter lens that he has quite a bit.
Yeah. So let's go to this one here. I don't know. I think probably many of you have seen this, but
Yep.
Steve Perry put that the 10 best Nikon shortcuts. Actually, is a YouTube video that deserves people to take your C8 or C9 and go through each of these, because even for many of us who use the camera almost on a daily basis, there is a lot of stuff here that I didn't know. I think out of the 10, I knew about 4, right? And some applied to your style of photography, some don't. But there were these auto ISO toggle that I knew excellent. I use it all the time. Okay. Then we have the how to delete all photos if you forget to reformat your camera and then you already added new ones. That was fantastic. Right. How to change the autofocus area size very quickly. Correct. The double tapping, so I think most people know about that one. Okay. The 2 button format also, which is that I think is a new. The pre-capture trick I didn't know. Right. The iMenu trick I didn't know completely. Okay. They using the stop holding button rather than the basically cycle between off and on a particular area. Correct. The manual focus alert that I use a lot. Right. Although by exaggerating the color and put it to the maximum, it makes it more available. Okay, and fast focus detection. Okay, so fantastic job by Steve. He keep bringing value commentary to our community here. Correct. So
Yeah, I mean, these are really great tips, and I'm gonna watch it again. And I mean, the problem is he has so many tips and tricks and so many things in his book. I mean, I have several of his books, and that he's very good. He's religiously updates them quickly and doesn't cost you, and you don't pay again. You pay once, and then you get the updates for free as he changes them. But I mean, if you'll never remember all these things. There's just so many things you could do, and the thing is, like, well, you probably find 2 or 3 that really mean a lot to you.
Exactly.
You burn those into your head. You're not going to remember all of them. There's just way too many out there.
In some cases, you put it in your camera because it shows you how to set up your camera to do that. So I think it's a worthwhile.
I use most of them because of him, because I'm following him, and we have said that again and again in different videos. And most of this on this list it is. I mean, everything was familiar to me because of him again.
Yeah,
I learned
it's all in his
from
books. It's in his book.
Some of them I'm used, not some not, but yeah.
Depending on your photography style.
Yeah. Well, he's a
Him and him
fantastic.
is my favorite voice.
Yeah, he's a fantastic guy when it comes to sharing information and he uses it. He does it. You know.
Exactly.
All right.
Anyway, Gustavo, you got a few pictures you want to share?
Well, I got yes, I do have. So this was actually in the news about 3 weeks ago. It got into the mix of this announcement for the CR, but this could be an interesting thing happening, correct? I don't know if you remember reading this in the Nikon rumors, but actually was uh, uh, news coming from Bloomberg, correct?
Yeah, I don't know who that is on the left.
Essilor Luxottica is a very important company. Actually, it's owns most of the manufacture of glasses, correct? Including Ray-Ban, Oakley. Remember, and I want to point here, guys. Remember that although you think what had to do, wearable glasses with the business. Remember that the owner of Red started the business in Oakley, correct? So there is a lot of synergy here. Now, this is my time for speculation here, but there may be something going on here. EssilorLuxottica, which is a French-Italian company, it already own portion of Nikon. Right? I think they are stakeholders of Nikon. They started with
5 or 10%.
5%, and then now they wanted to raise it, and that's what Bloomberg reported to about 20%. Correct. So they're investing in, and actually, or to something like that, and actually, the Nikon stock came up immediately after that rumor was happened. I don't know whether the deal had been concluded, but basically, this company, this important company, is investing in Nikon, which is good, correct, to support the Nikon development. Now, the other part of this, and this is the portion that is the speculation on my side, but it brings everything together, is the same company, Luxottica, also is a big collaborator with Meta. Okay? And Meta, as you know, just released a new product, and actually, which is, I think, mind blowing, which is I make some note here. It's I think is let me see, is the Meta Ray-Ban display, okay? And that is basically glasses that actually project a 5,000 lumen screen in your glass, and it has all sort of sensors that you can operate the camera and operate the little computer with your wrist, because it has a neural band that basically record movement in your hand and signals in your hand. So watch those videos. They may be, some of these may be all related.
The future is here.
The future here, and Nikon may be in the future.
Definitely.
So I don't know, Bob, you're in technology, and Jeff, you're a lot in technology.
I just want to have a slot.
What do you think about
I just want to have a slot in the side of my neck so that what my eyes see,
By the way,
I can save.
And probably for us that are in the Apple system, and we wait if this comes in Apple, but that Meta Ray-Ban glasses with display, right? They would cost only $700. So these may have wider acceptance, and these companies are working with Nikon, particularly that middle company, that French Italian company. So, Robert, did you see some of the announcement as well or not?
I had seen that they were looking looking to up their stake in Nikon to 20%. Yeah, I saw that a few
Yeah.
weeks ago. I don't know anything about the technology that they're planning on using, and not something that I'm interested in. But as far as wearable headsets,
By the way, the way they did the display, I don't know. It was one guy for us that like understand technology. It's basically is an etching in the glass. So if you look at me in my glasses, it will look normal, of course, but then there will be etching on the glass, and I think it's on the right side. There is a very high resolution, high luminosity screen that is basically projected on that etched glass. That's the future, guys. That's the future.
Yeah, we had these rumors, not rumors, the ideas a couple of years ago now.
Yeah,
that will become, and now comes to reality.
exactly. So I thought that it was interested, obviously, the financial portion of this, but also the potential implications on how these companies are working together to bring new products.
Hey, talk about distracted driving.
Well, I'm sure that that's the problem with technology, correct? It marches at a faster speed than the society.
They're going
And
to say you can only wear those glasses if you're in a driverless car.
I remember this is what the fighter pilots, they have some sort of display in their
Yeah.
It's for a normal car to wake you up.
They have little optical sensors
Exactly.
and so forth. Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that for fun to bring this one, but also the financial implications. So basically, the collaborations and the investment that this company is making in Nikon. Okay, so here we go back to the photo sharing. So let's talk back to reality.
Back
and
to reality. Back to the real world.
back to reality and back to things that our community is doing, including myself. So our friend Luis is, I think he's in Corfu, which is a Greek island, a very famous island, and as usual, he's doing a lot of his photography, wildlife photography, and he's taking here some photos of endemic lizard called I think it's a male blue-throated keely lizard. Okay, and as you know, he do a lot of his macro photography with the all SLR. Correct. So this was taken with the D 7100, which he liked, working with the Tokina 100 millimeter macro f8. Okay, at the 1/200 speed and ISO 200, and he uses a flash a lot for this kind of macro reptile herpetology type of photography. Correct? A beautiful picture. I'm sure we're going to hear more and see more pictures of that. Any comments? I'm sure Martin.
Speaking of pictures, I only got pictures so far for the photo review from two people, Luis and Bob. So I got 9 images. So
Okay. 2 weeks from now.
we get 2 weeks, man. Start sending them in.
Mine coming. Uluru.
So this one is for me, and it's more of a project than an actual photo. So this year I have somebody to build me a small, basically wildlife pond at the back of my backyard. And as soon as I put water and put the pump on, some turkeys came to visit. So this is the first to come. Maybe some
Close to your kitchen?
This shot from my deck.
Yeah, they go to your kitchen at all?
Was in Thanksgiving. They go to,
Only for turkey dinner.
Yeah.
they will come to not this one, but some.
Because
They go down the road to his backyard that says one way.
So I have about I say a couple of days ago. These only have been active for about a few days, so I'm going to try to make it more natural looking, correct? And so I have about 30 of these guys that came. As soon as they know so that there is water available, particularly here in Denver, that is quite dry. But so that's one of the things that I have been doing. And this one actually is actually from, yeah, I think yesterday. Right, so I went to see the elk rod, that's when I entered the park at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had to stay there until sunrise. And just as the sun was peeking through the horizon, these guys started to fight. Uh, so this is one from a long series, taken with the Z9 at the 600 millimeter TC at 840 millimeter ISO 2200, and this is heavily cropped, correct? But uh, good enough that it can be shown here. You see all the details and capture the ferocity of their fight.
So who won? The one on the right or the one on the left?
Which one do you think?
The one on the right.
No, the one on the left.
He picked because he has the leg on the air.
Around fine. This guy here was, and I show, if we do a presentation on this, I will show the whole sequence of the battle. So a couple of years, 3 years ago, I photographed from close to this, and it was terrifying and fantastic to have them fight where you are. But this was photographed across the valley. So,
Well, does the loser typically? I would assume the loser is able to walk away at some point, right?
oh yeah. These guys, this was not a ferocious fight. Like it lasted maybe 3-4 minutes, and there is a whole choreography of them walking parallel with each other, and then you eventually know that they are going to come to this, and the guy on the right eventually backtrack and run away, and that was the end. Right?
Yeah.
They actually engage first,
Yeah.
and then when they are engaged, they start pushing. It's more like they are not trying to basically damage each other, although
To see who's physically stronger, really.
exactly. It's more like a measurement of strength rather than trying to be stabbed by the antlers. So anyway, so let's talk here about upcoming, because it's important.
I'll throw my picture in quick.
Yeah.
I only got one. This is kind of a joke. This is for Roy.
He just took off.
Roy left. Okay, so Roy always likes it when I show an image of an alligator, right? So this is just being a joke.
So cute.
So I figured, hey, you know what? We have crocodiles here too.
I've heard that.
So here it is.
Yay! Ferocious.
There you go. The famous crocodile rock.
Oh,
there you go.
Very pretty.
So this was a week or so ago I showed some night photography shots, I think, on the last photo review, and I got a bunch more that I took that I didn't share. So this is one of them. I figured as a joke, I would just tell Roy that we do have crocodiles here, and they rock. And
they bite like the other ones.
What's that?
They bite like the other ones.
What they serve probably bites pretty bad.
That's what I mean.
But I just figured I'd throw that one in a bit for a little comic relief at the end of the show.
so let's go back here to upcoming.
Drum roll.
Remember, we're still trying to capture ideas and topic for the pipeline, correct? So you saw that today the introduction to Astro Photography and Single Exposure by Robert. Okay. Then on October we will have Terry to talk about Star Trails, and that presentation is ready. So that's fantastic to have something in your we already have it in the back pocket. And then on Mike Reese is having promised us Newfoundland bird photography. I think I have to correct that slide with the proper name, and that's on November 15. Right? So all the possible topics. So you can see it working on the second one there, Rod. And many of us will be able to see some landscape and foliage here pretty soon, all the way there, Robert, to where you are. Correct? It's probably fall is coming, and so that's the opportunity to take full photos and talk about it. Okay? And of course, photo techniques. And we want to discuss before that. One of these, we're going to make a presentation about how to call in your photos and what to keep and what to keep, what to store, so that we don't have to have so many media to keep all the photos and videos.
Well, you know how you cull them the quickest?
Delete button.
No, you have your wife do it. Because she looks at them and says, I don't like any of them. And it's all deleted. That's it. Your photos are culled just like that.
Yeah. So these are the dates. If you want to know what the exact dates, and I don't think we have anything yet for the December 6th, but I'm sure that between now and then, there's the image review, and then December 20th, that will be the general meeting, close to Christmas.
Yeah.
So these are the future thumbnails. So that we have been promoted here. The photo launch live coming October 8th with the Terry Star Trails. As you can see, fantastic photos from Terry, and everybody will be here in the Twilight Zone.
Well, after you show that long enough, everybody's just going to say, I love Terry's shots. I love Terry's shots.
And this is the one for November with photographic seabirds in Newfoundland. The fantastic picture from Mike. He shared some of those with us in the last image review.
Yeah.
And to finalize here is, as you heard from Jeff, we only have 4 photos.
We have 9.
9 photos, right?
Yeah.
Mostly from Bob and Luis.
Yeah.
All right. So the October image review is in 2 weeks, right? So again, will be Saturday, October the 4th. Please do send your photos to selectedimagery1@gmail.com. JPEG format 2048 or slightly bigger. Okay. The deadline is the Friday before, which will be October the 3rd. Please send them as soon as possible so that we don't have to have a lot of photos from few people, but have few
I'd like more people with less photos versus few people with a lot of photos. But that's why we're trying so hard to just try to get, we're not looking to be, we got 20,000 subscribers. I could care blankety blank about 20,000 subscribers. What I want to have is 40 to 50 religious, solid, thinking photographers that come on these shows to share the pictures they take, get some, hopefully, somehow get some younger people that want to invest some time, show us what they like to take pictures of, get some more female photographers in here, since we only have Anita left out of the 3 that we used to have in here, and try to get more variety, get some different photos. Someone and legitimately pointed out, he says, well, there's too many nature shots, too many bird shots. And I had to just respond respectfully and say, well, send me what you have and invite some of your friends to send pictures in that aren't birds. And that kind of takes care of the problem, because I only show what I get. I don't tell people what to send in. right? I say shoot what you want, share what you love to do, and the chips fall where they may, and but I hope that we can get to where we have at least 40 people that are watching a show and participating in a show twice a month. That's all I'm looking to get. I'm not looking for monetization. I'm not looking for 20,000 subscribers or even 1,000 subscribers. I just want to get more people engaged and get more people here that want to share, and it'll make it more interesting for everybody that's here if we can get some more people as well. I'm off my soapbox now. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go to bed. Guys.
So anyway, I think that's the end. If you guys have any other things to discuss, let's go back here to this view. And Jeff, do you have anything else? Or
No, I mean, I love what everybody did. I was looking forward to, I'll do night photography, night street photography, things like that. I don't per se, and I'll do the moon shots every once in a while, but never really got into doing astro. But I was really looking forward to, and you're doing it right. You're starting off with the, at the beginning, at the complicated methodology. Not that it's easy. Never saying anything's easy, but something that doesn't require someone to run out there per se and invest thousands of dollars, because they probably already have most of the gear in order to do what you presented tonight, other than maybe some filters or having to get a better tripod or something like that. But this was a great start. I enjoyed it very, very much. I took notes. I got, I wrote down, okay, check out Photo Pills, check out the Solarium app. They wrote down the part numbers of your headlamp there with the red light on it and stuff like that. So I got something out of it. So hopefully everybody did. I'm sure they did.
And let's try, and then share our experience as we fail and eventually succeed on this, right?
Yeah, you work on anything and don't give up and work on it enough. Next thing you know, you're the next one doing a presentation on this show. We'll drag you in. But I'll say my good nights to everybody. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. I know we all appreciate it. And I thank everybody on the panel. I thank Gustavo with working with these guys to help, coordinate things and kind of come up with a layout and all the knowledge that you guys have doing astrophotography. And that's what we want this channel to be about. So we got the best of the best, and we all benefit from it. Thanks all of you so much. You're greatly appreciated that you take the time.
Great effort, and thank you.
And I'm done.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Bye. See you in 2 weeks. Send your photos
Bye,
to Jeff.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys,
Bye.
take care. We're ending the stream. Don't take that the wrong way.